This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's been a long time since we've started a drive with a little tortoise that has gone off the road. It's just hiding and camouflaging in the grasses, and that's all because of the rain that we had this morning. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Impo, and it is a very warm welcome to our sunset safari. The weather is looking much better than it did this morning. It doesn't seem like we're going to get some rain. We've got a bit of sunshine that's trying to come through, and it's actually quite hot this afternoon. There's a bit of humidity that's coming through, and there's already signs of the rain taking effect and animals that rely on the rain starting to come out, like this little tortoise. You can see how well it camouflages in amongst those grasses, but they're out and about now. It's been a long winter, not a lot of water around for them to find, and so they're out to try and take advantage not only of the puddles that are around, but also any little green shoots that should start popping through in the next little bit. I also saw my first carcass beetle come past, so they're a sign of summer too. You don't really see them in the winter months, almost like a dung beetle in a way, but just not dung. They process meat, or actually even sometimes the dung of predators. So nice to see little signs already. I think we're going to see an explosion of colour in the next couple of days. The terminalias, the bush willows, marulas, they all should push leaf pretty quickly now. I would imagine within the next probably 2-3 days we should start seeing terminalia leaves out and about. Oh, sorry, I can just hear a radio making a lot of noise behind me here. So I just want to try and sort that out. Well, that's off, so it's not that one. It must be one of these. That is in front here. There we go, found it. Alright. I think what we'll do, though, is we're going to leave our tortoise because it's hiding and trying to kind of get out of the way, so we don't want to stress it too much. We're going to carry on kind of southwards. We're just going to check around, after the rain. It's a bit of a blank canvas. Who knows where anything is? So we're going to just bumble and see. We didn't get very far this morning due to the rain. So I want to go check sort of Trias and Twindams and just southwards. Might even go east towards Chitwa, see if there's any sign of Marips or Shasha or Tsemba or Kachaba, any of those leopards that hang around that side, or even maybe the central part of the property for any signs of Candelabra. We'll see. We're just going to bumble. Whatever comes our way, comes our way. All right, Impo. We've challenged you enough with that one. And leave our little leopard tortoise to itself. All right, now remember we are coming to you live, so now that I've gotten through all of that, you can ask lots of questions or comments, and you can do so via the various social media platforms. So hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, @FCE YouTube chat stream, comments boxes of the various places we stream to, kids questions at wildearth.tv, as well as on the website. And you should be able to talk to us. It goes a long way to helping us. It's not easy sometimes talking to a camera, so when you guys talk to us, it allows for discussion to take place and for us to then have some fairly decent conversations about things, which is hopefully going to benefit and educate all of us in some way. Oh, nice not to be getting rained on. I'll tell you that much. This morning was a bit miserable at times. But let's see how this afternoon pans out. Good, so we're going to head south, like I was saying. I was talking also about the fact that it's cleared up a little bit and it's quite warm. So you can take a look at what the weather is going to be like for us this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I may be on the dam cam once again, but I do have, well, I was going to say an animal, but I actually have two animals, Warthogs. They have been on the dam cam for quite some time, and if you don't recognize the voice already, my name is Laura. And unfortunately, Wendy, well, she's actually okay. Technically, not for once. Mechanically, Wendy is working. So for now, I will be on the dam cam, which is a bit of a challenge, as you all know. So please do send in your questions. I am up for answering anything, land or ocean. I'm not so good with outer space, so we'll maybe leave any space-related questions. But anything else, please do send them in. More than happy to answer them. If there's anything else you want to discuss, we can dive deep into discussion too. I have a funny feeling Tristan's going to be lucky with it. Or at least I hope. I haven't even had the chance to explore the reserve yet. I was desperate to get to the Wig's house, Mrs. Wig. Sadly, I've not made it, so that'll be my mission for tomorrow. Exciting stuff. She has another check, or even more than one. That will be so delightful for us to follow the spotted flower. Sedgwick was born... Well, actually, Sedgwick was sighted around the 13th of November 2019. So we're obviously just going into October now. Can't honestly remember Olivia. But it could be any time from now that we start the activity with Mrs. Warthog. This is very, very sweet. And they don't know we're watching them, which is why they're not running away. So I'm going to sit here and do exactly that. And we're going to send you over to JP. Say good afternoon.
Good afternoon and welcome to WildEarth. We're live at Eco Trading Pridelands. We're starting our walk this afternoon from Leopard Dam. Our plan is just to quickly walk around the dam to see if there's any tracks of any animals that came in to come and drink and determine if those are fresh or not and worthwhile following up on. So my name is JP Leroux and behind the camera we've got BK. And meanwhile, most of our resident birds on the dam is here, the Egyptian geese. Also our hammerkop, little free-banded plover was running there at the back a little bit earlier. And we also noticed that the little grebe is popping up and down, catching little fish again. Let's see what we're all getting up to. A few moments ago, there was also a terrapin that was sitting between the two Egyptian geese. That seems as if he's now disappeared. Good afternoon, Karen, and welcome to the show. With regards to your question, why is it called a hammerkop? Because of the flat head profile that it has that resembles the bottom part or the striking part of a hammer. For those that you are not familiar with hammerkops, they're quite easy to identify. We normally find them that they've got quite a slightly hooked bill at the tip, flat crown to the head, and they're pretty much medium size and uniform brown in color. That bill is very specialized in terms of dealing with slippery prey items, and they mostly go for fish as well as a number of different frog species as well as tadpoles which they will feed on. Over the last few days we've actually watched him also catching platanas, which is one of his favorite meals at this dam. It also seems to have become the favorite meal of the pied kingfisher as well as the little grebe that frequents the dam. Quite often those hammerkops will stand dead still and you will actually see the reflection in the water. And in quite a few African cultures, that's actually associated with vanity because of them always staring at their own silhouette in the water. For those that also have joined us for the first time, one of the other interesting cultural beliefs that are associated with them in African culture is that they do bring lightning if you do disturb their nest or bring harm to them and their nest.
we're still watching our little gang of warthogs here. And it's actually fantastic because they can be, well, skittish, I guess is the right word, and dash off as soon as they see you because they have to be on constant high alert. But here, they don't. You can see they're using the power in their little wrists, if you like, on the king. We've even got enough. Not common to see on warthog. Normally, impalas are the sort of smallest animals that you really will find a lot of on, but really, this one's enjoying the ride. Oh, another one. Oh, another. Oh. They know. My camera skills are not incredible, but right. Oh, they're scratching their head. Do you see that? On the wiry hairs. Doesn't look like they're actually searching for any tick parasites. That one in the ear. Not sure if the warthog is enjoying that. Yes, they definitely are looking for ticks, that's for sure. Oh, what a sweet little... Oh. What a lovely moment. I'm going to sit here, work on my camera skills, and stay with this warthog.
Well, we have some wildebeest that are causing a roadblock here. It's the same wildebeest that this morning had a mild little interaction with Darkmane. Lauren was with him and he was apparently stalking these guys, but they look very, very chilled now and as though nothing is worrying them at all. It's also quite a long way from where we saw them. And they've moved quite steadily north throughout the day, and I don't know if that's because they were chased after we last saw them, or if it was just that they slowly kind of grazed their way up this way towards we're kind of on the edge of quarantine, but not. If they cross the block, then they go into quarantine. So if they head to their left, so the left of frame, then they're going to head that direction, which would be a clever place to go this evening. There's still quite a bit of cloud cover. So they're not out of the woods yet, and the weather is certainly not going to be that great going forward. So today is okay, and tomorrow seems like it's going to be a nice day, and then the rain and cold comes back again. So I think they will be wise to try and spend time in as open an area as possible. So ideally somewhere like quarantine. But you can tell that it's nice weather today and cool because they're all lying down. When they lie down in the road like this, it's weather that's decent for not being in the sun. And you can see the whole lot of them. Even the bull now has sat down. It's nice to see so many wildebeest kind of just sitting and taking it easy. Hopefully this year we'll get to see one of them giving birth. I was just noticing now some of the females have started to show quite nicely. Their tummies are getting quite big now. And so soon we should end up with some little wildebeest, which will be fun. I like baby wildebeest, they're cute little things. Cute in their ugliness is probably a good way to put it. They're not pretty by any stretch of the imagination, but they have long gangly legs and this sort of quite shaggy brown coat. But there's cuteness in... I think all baby animals are cute, I think, personally. But you'll notice every now and then their skin is twitching. So a lot of people often are quite confused by the fact that their skin twitches like that. It's just an automated response to insects that land on them. So much like you would have the same feeling if a fly lands on you and then you swat it away with your hand, they just have the ability to move their skin, which then triggers the fly to take off and leave them alone. And after this rain, the flies are going to come back pretty strongly. We're going to get a number of biting flies that should start to come out, unfortunately. In fact, they're already starting. I just felt one land on me now. And when they start to come out, it's pretty irritating for not only us, but for the animals too. They land in the ears and the eyes and the nose, and a lot of time they're trying to sequester moisture from those eyes and nose areas, and drives these poor animals absolutely crazy. You also get a bot fly on these guys. So the biting flies are one thing, but then there's a bot fly too, which is the one that lays its eggs in the nasal cavity of a wildebeest or a zebra, and it's often why you see their heads bouncing. It's because the little grub or little pupa is moving inside the nose, and it causes irritation, so they shake their heads like that to try and just ease that irritation as well. What you'll also notice is that they are chewing, so animals that chew the cud. Charles, so yes, but not vastly different in the coloration. So across Africa we have these guys, then we get what's called a black wildebeest. So these guys you'll see have a browny kind of grey coloration with a bit of black brindling in them. The black wildebeest is slightly darker than that. And then you get the white bearded wildebeest, which has got the white beard rather than the black beard that you see here. Essentially very similar animal, looks the same size, same coloration for the most part, but the beard is white. That's the one in the migration. And then you get a Nyasaland wildebeest, which has got a prominent white marking across its nose, so a white chevron. That makes it pretty diagnostic, but the color changes, the color differences are not vast. It's not like, let's say, for example, a Nyala and a Kudu, where they have that quite different color. These guys are all pretty similar tones of browns and blacks. It's just kind of markings on the faces or the beards that are a little bit different. And then the black wildebeest, the horns are very different to these guys. You see these horns come out to the side. The black wildebeest go forward and then bend up. And then they also have quite a light coloured mane area too. Pretty striking looking animals are the black wildebeest, and you find them sort of in the highlands of South Africa, so central, a little bit to the east, lots of them in Eastern Cape as well. So they're kind of quite spread through the central part of the country. But yeah, we don't get the same numbers as what you see up in East Africa, unfortunately. So you say you think these wildebeest are gorgeous? Yeah, I'm not sure I would categorize them as gorgeous, but they're animals that are beautifully clean and in good condition, and so I suppose there's a beauty in that. And they're wild, which is, I suppose, very special in its own right. But for me, they really aren't pretty. They've got these awkward long faces, this weird kind of nose, and then these ears that are sort of long and elongated. They just don't have the beauty of, let's say, something like a sable or an impala. I find those animals, or even a male nyala for that matter, I find those animals to have those striking kind of markings and this beauty in terms of their horn shapes and the kind of presence that they have. Wildebeest don't have that same kind of beauty presence. They're strong and they're powerful and they kind of have that sort of atmosphere about them, but they certainly don't look pretty. Well, that's my opinion at least. I don't find them the most attractive of animals. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So, if you find them gorgeous, then that's all good. Alrighty, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to try and see what else is lurking and leave these guys to have a little nap. In the meantime, though, you can take a look at what you might experience if you come out on an expedition with WildEarth.
Luckily, the warthogs have not disappeared. Well, some of them have, but this one has not. Something must be very delicious there. And you can see the shape of their skull. Oh, I got a fright there. The shape of the skull allows for digging in the grass for bulbs, tubers, rhizomes. And if whatever they're after is a little bit too tough for the lips, then they will use the tusks to dig up the soil and find whatever it is they're looking for. And that's what this little one is doing. It's very sweet. A little bit entertaining, I must say, but very sweet all the same. Rosie, you are 8 years old and you're asking a fantastic question. And, oh, no, don't disappear. And the answer is absolutely yes, they would. We're on a high-speed chase after this warthog here. Yes, of course they would. Warthogs are small. Something scared them. But sort of very easy for a leopard to catch, especially when they're inside the den, inside a mound. The leopard can wait on top of the mound and catch them when they come out, which is not too pleasant to watch. But overall, leopards are completely opportunistic. They really will hunt anything, especially when they're hungry. When you live out here in the wild, Rosie, sometimes you don't have choice. You've got to eat anything to survive, and leopards do exactly that. And warthogs are definitely up there on the menu. Okay, unfortunately, they've disappeared. But I'm going to swivel back around to the dam now. They're easily spooked, easily scared. Could be a vehicle. Could actually be the sound of the camera. Could be people's voices. Or just the wind, because they know they're easy targets for many of the predators. Okay, not that I think I'm going to be able to find what spooked it, but you never know. Sugar Bits, hello there. It's lovely to hear from you. Ooh, tough question. Definitely not broken down vehicles or signal. It has to be the animals, absolutely, especially the hyenas. And many of you are actually, oh, I think we've got a mongoose here, are very intrigued by the story I posted on Instagram of the hyena that visited my room. And it doesn't appear to be a Djuma clanner from what I can see. I'm not familiar with this individual and is injured. Not fatally so, but it definitely is injured and is wandering around camp. And which, of course, you need to be very cautious when you have an injured animal. But it was wonderful to just see a hyena again. And naturally, the clan are not den-bound anymore. So they're roaming, they're mobile. Oh, mongoose are so entertaining. The hyenas, cousins, of course. So it's going to be a little bit tricky to catch up with the Djuma clan, but I will absolutely do my best. And I know there's lots of speculation about Pumela. That's a difficult one. He's really not been seen in a very, very long time, which makes us think that he's not made it, I'm afraid. So I will do my very best to try and keep tabs on the Djuma clan as much as possible. Hello, mongoose, you're on camera. You would really struggle to believe that they're closely related to hyenas, and yet they are. Just like what we were speaking about hippos and dolphins earlier. Surprising what animals are closely related to one another. Okay, I'm going to sit here, drink my tea, and thoroughly enjoy watching the mongoose. civilized to just found some black rhino tracks. A mother with a calf. The calf tracks are so small. They're somewhere here in this area, but it's too dense to walk this way. So we're gonna walk around where it's not so dense. Let's hope we get lucky.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward and deposit the scent mark, which is that what they use to patrol their territory.
We managed to get a glimpse of the black rhino, but for safety reasons, of course, we held back and we walked a different way, but it was such a fantastic experience. We didn't just focus on the big things, because it's not all about the big things. We focused on army ants and lots of dung. Civilized did an incredible job, but it's up to the judges now.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
I love being a camera for WildEarth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
I only have one mongoose right now. Let me just see if we can find where the others went. I may as well scratch around a little bit. Come on, Mongusta. I was enjoying you guys. And you know, animals make me laugh. I always find most animals, even insects, even fish, really entertaining. Of course, not always, but animals have their way of entertaining you. It's not just the domestic pets. And even underwater, you can sit for hours just watching the reef. And the fish purposely just trying to annoy one another and chase one another. They've all got little personalities of their own, believe it or not. I know that's really hard to believe. I always talk about a book, What a Fish Knows. It's an incredible book, and I recommend it to anyone that is vaguely interested in fish. And it goes deep into the life of a fish and how they do have personalities, they do play games, they do things for fun, they have emotion, and they definitely feel pain. I won't say any more than that. But it's just wonderful to watch a little busy ecosystem. And what we decided to do out there was turn our cameras on, drop them just like a dam cam, just like what I'm doing right now, hit record and then swim away, come back 2 hours later, which is a little bit risky, of course, because your camera might not be there, but luckily we weighted it down. And then you take it back to the room and have a look at the footage you've got. And because you're not in the environment, so you're not disrupting anything, it is absolutely incredible, the footage we got. We will share it with you all at one point. But the point is, all these animals are going about their lives, busy. And fish are not just monotonous, cold-blooded beings. They are actually alive little beings with personalities. And the more you look at them, the more I just find them absolutely hilarious, like I do the dwarf mongoose. And although I much prefer being on drive than being on dam cam, I have to say that dam cam is a fantastic tool that allows you to watch these organisms without them realizing they're being watched. They obviously don't hear a vehicle because there is no vehicle. They don't hear people because there are no people. And it's a really fantastic tool to sort of open your eyes into what is going on when there is no human presence. Although it's much better to be out there, I guess, in some way, especially to some species, we are a disturbance. Look, mongoose only stay in the termite mound to rest and to run for protection. But I mean, let me use my incredible camera skills here. You see this log to the right? If anything came of those, any sort of threat, be it on the ground, terrestrial, or in the air, an aerial threat, they would just run and hide inside this fallen over log. So they don't always leave themselves completely exposed, but they don't need to be beside a mound. It's only when that sun is starting to set and nighttime is coming that they will be closer to whichever mound they choose to sleep in that night. They have a network of mounds. But during the day they forage. Never alone. They will be sort of out and about, always looking, always cautious. And they won't stray too far from something that they can run to. And in this case right now, it's that fallen over tree on the right there. And one of my saddest sightings here, I actually think it was with Davy on Triple M when we found a mongoose. And I thought, oh yay, we got a mongoose. We stopped and we didn't realize something awful had happened. And it looked like it had encountered a spitting cobra, I'm afraid. And it was completely blind. And sadly, there's nothing much we can do. That's very much our policy here, so we had to leave it. But the survival rate, most likely, of that little mongoose was probably next to zero. I'm talking of mongoose. I think I've lost mine. My mongoose are disappearing, so I'm going to search around the rest of the dam and see what else I can find.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We're just busy watching some harvester ants. And what they're doing at the moment is cleaning out their nest from plant material or waste products from plant material on which they're fed, as well as carrying out tiny little stones. So quite often we find that they have very specialized hairs underneath the body, which enables them to specifically pick up those tiny little sand particles or stones that's inside the nest. One of the things that I do find quite fascinating, unlike many other species of ants, these guys specialize in mostly feeding on grains. What they also do is they keep these grains in a special granary underneath the soil, which is designed to keep those seeds dry and prevent them from germinating. Because once the seeds germinate, then they actually can't feed on them. One of the other things that I also find particularly interesting is the incredibly long pathways that these ants can create, sometimes 150, 200 meters from their nest towards the feeding areas where they're busy feeding. These little lines that they create can sometimes be as broad as 5 to 7 centimeters, and it almost provides the impression that it was a snake that created it. But on closer inspection, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of these tiny little ants all working together, taking back seeds to the nest. One of the things that I often get asked when it comes to ants is that why they make nests and not mounds. And quite often when we find when it comes to mounds, the mounds are actually belonging to termites, while ants produce nests that's underneath the ground. Also, if we do look at these ants on closer inspection, we'll also notice that some of them has got bigger heads and bigger mandibles, and those have the ability to break open bigger seeds. While we're watching our ants, let's go and see what Tristan is up to.
Well, from wildebeest to big herds of buffalo, which also could be from the sky, at least look like little ants moving around. When herds of buffalo kind of see them from the air, they look exactly the same. But it's that big herd that we've been seeing regularly of late. They've come back into the property, which is good. They are hopefully going to kind of come deeper into Djuma than they did the last time. So they only came in for the afternoon last time and then turned back and dragged all the lions with them. So hopefully this time we'll find the Nkumas or Talamatis following them still. It's exactly where Lauren had Darkmane this morning. So I don't know if he heard the buffalo and then carried on down towards them, or if he's still trailing them, or if he's lying up somewhere here and is going to make an appearance while we're sitting with them. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it goes. So what we'll do is we'll sit with them for a little bit now. I always enjoy being with them, as I've said many times before. And then once they've kind of passed us, because they're going to walk all the way kind of around us, and once they've passed us, then I think what we'll do is we'll just check behind them. If nothing, then we'll do a couple of loops around, go and check further afield, and then come back here a little bit later and see if maybe there's anything that's decided to start getting up and trailing them. You never know if the lions decide to wake up a little bit later. They might come up and come through towards these guys. We're at that kind of weather where it's very, very possible that they will even trail at this time of the day. So the lions might even think to themselves, well, you know what, it's not that hot, there's an opportunity, so we'll see how we go. That's, of course, if they didn't catch anything. I didn't speak to anybody from the sort of lodges to the south of us this morning, so I have no idea if the Talamatis were successful yesterday. I know they were watching this herd yesterday, but I don't know if they were in any way successful, or even if the Nkuhumas tried to have a go. So yeah, we'll just see what happens. If they weren't successful, I'm pretty sure the Talamatis will be somewhere close by. I don't think that they will let the opportunity of buffalo go that easily. Those boys are getting big now, as are the other sub-adults, and so they don't really have the option of kind of just dismissing a herd of buffalo. They need to take it. And as I was explaining this morning, these buffalo are about to get a whole lot stronger and quickly. There's going to be beautiful grass that's going to grow soon, and that grass is going to improve the condition of these animals exponentially going forward, and that's going to end up in a situation where it's going to become a lot harder for our lions to actually hunt herds like this. And so they might as well make hay while the sun shines and try and see if they can grab themselves a couple buffalo before that condition increases. And what you'll find is the buffalo will probably be quite wary approaching us. They generally are. When you're in front of them, they like to just have a bit of a stop and sniff and make sure. There could also be the scent of dark mane lingering from this morning, so they'll just stop, sniff, and then eventually start to kind of peel around us in all directions, and we'll have a whole bunch of buffalo surrounding us. It's interesting, there's two individuals in front of us that have very interesting coloration. There's a female and a calf that have like a caramel kind of black coloration. Awesome, pretty much instantly. So they're born, and you can already see the little stubs of where the horns will be, and within a few weeks you're starting to see some semblance of growth. So yeah, they get horns pretty quick, and then they grow throughout their life, and there's always a wearing that's taking place of the tips of the horns. You often find buffalo with broken tips when they fight with each other, and those kinds of things. They leverage and break those horns from time to time. So, but yeah, pretty much from day dot, there's already evidence of the horns coming through. I must admit, I just enjoy sitting with buffalo because of the sound more than anything else. The amount of grunts and groans and bellows and the oxpeckers and the activity that they display. Just nice just to listen to them. Alright, well, we'll sit here and get enveloped by these buffalo and enjoy the sight. See what else comes our way while we're sitting with them.
Nothing at the dam at the moment, but what I'm going to do is just do a slow pan from one side to the other, and then just enjoy all of us together the fact that it's not raining, and see if we can spot anything as we slowly pan across the dam. one of you never know what. Oh, keep scanning and see what else.
Well, we have our buffalo all around us at the moment. I'm going to actually just keep quiet for a little bit because it's so cool. You can hear all the sounds of them walking and chewing and all the other things that buffalo do. So it's nice just to actually listen. I was saying earlier that listening is the best part about being in a herd like this. I don't know how much you can hear of them moving around us. There's not been too many grunts, but nice just to hear the hooves moving through the grass. What I absolutely love about being in these herds is that there's always something to look at. If you're just willing to scan around and check, you find individuals that have wounds on them, you find those that are pregnant, and there's always an opportunity to see a buffalo give birth. In a herd like this, there's lots of very heavily pregnant cows. Like if you look at the one straight in front of me here, there's a bull that's in front, and then one behind it is a cow, and you can see she's heavily pregnant. So there's always an opportunity to even see them give birth. I've seen buffalo give birth a few times. I always like sitting in the herd and just watching each individual come past and see. You never know, maybe there's little hooves are sticking out the back, and if they are, then you just sit with them and you can get a very, very special moment in life of watching new life come out. This female in front here that's crossing the road, also pregnant at the moment. So lots and lots of pregnant girls in this group. Now, some of you have told me about the fact that there's a very light colored buffalo in this one, apparently a little calf, but it's very, very light in coloration. So I'll keep an eye out for that one. I'm sure it's lurking somewhere here. It's a big herd this, so it's tricky sometimes to see all of them. But you know, if we spend enough time, they should envelop us enough for us to be able to see what's going on. Now, the other thing that I wanted to look for, I think it'll be near impossible because I actually can't even remember any of the distinguishing markings on it, but there was actually a buffalo in this group that was snared. We managed to get the snare off. It was quite an operation to get it done. It was luckily not a very bad snare at all. In fact, it was just a little small piece of very light gauge wire that was caught around its neck. So it wasn't whoever put that snare out was not somebody that does this seriously. They were just a chance taker. But somewhere in here is a young female that had it that we managed to sort out and save. It's always nice to see, and we're very fortunate that we work in a reserve that takes those kinds of things very seriously, and generally will do everything they can to get the guys out here and vets and everything else to get it sorted out immediately. I remember that day, it was a Saturday, and we still managed to, it was Sunday actually, and we managed to get the vets out, and they kind of fixed up that particular buffalo. Now, there was another one in this group that had a very bad leg injury as well, and I didn't see it the other day when we were watching them at Treehouse Dam, but to be fair, most of the herd had already moved off. I hadn't spent that much time with them because we got reports of a drag mark and we kind of left the area. I'm keen to see if that individual is still going, or if it's unfortunately fallen off the back of the herd and been eaten somewhere along the line. The last time I saw it was that same Sunday. So I think that's now almost 3 weeks ago that buffalo was seen. So I'm wondering if it's still here. So Ashley is 7 years old. Buffalo aren't actually considered antelope. They are part of the bovine family, while they are what's called an ungulate. So ungulates are hoofed animals. So those that have hooves, they're not part of the antelope family. So they split off from things like impalas and nyalas and those kinds. And within the ungulates, as a family grouping, the biggest of the ungulates and biggest of the antelope in Africa is eland. They actually weigh more than some giraffe, some of them, especially that Lord Derby eland in the middle of Africa. Those guys get massive. They can get to 1.1 tons, which is a serious animal. Most giraffe don't quite reach that. So yeah, that would be the largest one. Buffalo, a big buffalo bull would be like 750, 800 kilograms. So they don't get quite as large as the eland. I love how when you sit long enough with them, they start to calm down. When we first got here, there's all these noses up and everyone was looking at us, didn't want to come close. But now that we're sitting, they're slowly kind of coming closer and closer, and there's like this little parting where we are. Everybody's kind of walking around us, but there's even ones that are lying down in front of us. Everybody's pretty chilled with our presence, which is cool. Alright, well, I think I'm just going to sit here for a while longer. They're still coming through the bush, and why not? It's a cool thing to sit amongst, and it's not like we need to rush off anywhere. We always know patience and sitting quietly can often lead to things. So while we do that, let's send you across to JP and see what he's up to.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. Yesterday afternoon on our walk, we actually found this little flower. It belongs to a bush, cherry bush, or a white wood is the other name for this plant. In some areas, it's also known as a, sorry, my apologies, it's a wild cherry bush. So one of the things that's quite interesting about this specific plant is that you can actually use the roots as a form or alternative for chicory when you would like to make something that resembles coffee. But what I specifically found interesting about this, after doing a little bit of reading up on them yesterday evening, is that they belong to the caper family. And the caper bushes and the different members of the caper bush families are often utilized by a butterfly species which is known as a brown-veined white. And one of those members of the caper bush family is a shepherd's tree, a tree that we find right throughout southern Africa, which is more commonly to the western half of South Africa, where this migration actually starts taking place from. When it comes to butterflies, we also find that they're very specific on which plants they want to lay their eggs, because the larvae are very dependent on specific species of plants, and that specific group of caper bush family members plants seems to be the brown-veined white's favorite plant or host plant for their larvae. What we find is that those butterflies then will migrate in a northeasterly direction, and it's said that they can migrate for approximately 2,500 to 3,500 kilometers, that some of those little butterflies will travel before they end up over the sea somewhere off the coast of KwaZulu-Natal. There's also some distant breaking of branches that I can hear. I hope that it's actually going to be an elephant. We're just going to go and follow up and see what we can go and find.
My name is Nomfundo Ndlovu, and I'm the Senior Project Manager for the Wesa Schools and Youth Unit. I'm a qualified horticulturalist. I'm particularly passionate about supporting schools towards working through their sustainability journey and towards food sovereignty throughout food gardening projects. A typical day in my work involves me overseeing our national projects and creating an enabling environment for schools to thrive and succeed in working towards self-reliance and sustainability, and really ensuring that no school gets left behind.
We're in the center of the reserve. It's a much more open area, so a completely different experience. It's also in the afternoon, so just a little bit hot, shall we say. We're following some lion tracks, and then we found the scat of a lion cub. So we didn't see the lions, but we decided to leave the area. It was getting a bit too dense and a bit too thick. So we've come all the way down to the water hole to have a little break, and then we're going to keep walking and see what else we can find. And TJ himself actually reminded us at the start of the walk that when you're on the vehicle, it's all about observing. But when you're on a walk, it's all about immersing yourself in nature, being part of the ecosystem. And that's exactly what happened today.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness.
Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Well, still with our buffalo herd, they quite steadily moving now. They all of a sudden, for some reason, everybody's decided it's time to go, and they're all kind of getting up and moving pretty fast, straight northwards. There's nothing that's kind of caused a disturbance that would lead to it, but there is definitely a bit more movement and a bit more haste in what's going on, particularly to our right-hand side. It's quite steady, the movement on the right, lots and lots of ewes moving through. Unfortunately, from here, there isn't really a nice clearing that they're going to come out into. The block that they're going into is quite dense and quite thick, so that's not going to be so pleasant. The next sort of open clearing, depending on the route that they take, is either quarantine or kind of sandy patch, but that's a long, long, long way away. It's going to take a long time for them to get there, so I'm not really sure which direction they're going to bend. I'm hoping they're going to head more towards Gari Dam, which would then take them quarantine side. If not, then they're going to be heading towards Baobab Dam, which is going to be through quite a number of thick blocks, and only really when they spill out onto Baobab Dam will they be nicely visible as an entire entity. For now, it's just going to be fairly wooded and dense and not really ideal for viewing them. I haven't seen the little light-coloured calf though in this group. Kelly, every now and then, yeah, females get a little grumpy with one another and they run into each other and push each other off, particularly if they're close to the little ones. Sometimes you find moms get a little bit grumpy and any buffalo kind of comes close and they just run into them and push them away. But it's not proper fights. It's not like the bulls that will clash horns and push each other around and try and establish the strong, dominant individual. Shame this cow is old, and there's one in front of us here. She's going to be a target particularly for lions. Can see how she's got white around her face. Her hip bones are sticking out. Not in the greatest of condition. Hopefully this little rain is going to be enough just to get her to kind of fill out nicely again and come right. Also one with a very big wound on its back. This is walking through the quarries. something very special about being in these herds. You know, when you're a kid and you go to places like the Kruger, you see these herds and they cross the road and stuff, but you never get to sit in amongst them like this. So always reminds me of how lucky we are to be in the place that we're in and to do what we do. Alrighty, the herd is passed. I'm just steadily moving up northwards. I think these guys are going to go to Baobab Dam. They might even go to Red Dam, which means they'll cut back westwards, which wouldn't be ideal. I was kind of hoping they were going to go more east, but they look like they changed direction slightly and are heading more northwest now. And if they're not going to follow the road, there's a road and then it goes up, big game path, and then straight north. So I didn't catch the name, sorry Gwen, if you can just repeat the name for me. But the condition of the buffalo is, a lot of them are skinny because of the winter season, but there's also an element, Noah, there we go, sorry Noah. But there's also an element of most of these animals have got tuberculosis. So bovine tuberculosis, which means that they do lose condition when things get a bit stressful, so hot weather and lack of food can deteriorate their condition pretty quickly. So that can be a contributing factor to it as well. And just like that, they were gone. Sea of buffalo disappeared. Alright, I just want to check behind them. You never know. Maybe we get lucky and we pick up some lions moving behind them. Don't think it would be the case because the herd looks pretty relaxed. It's not like they are moving at a rate of knots, but always worth just double checking when you have a buffalo herd around. Sometimes the lions can just be hanging on the back and slowly kind of moving behind them, waiting for the right place to strike. And like I say, conditions this afternoon are not ones that the lions will have to sleep. They can be pretty active already now with this kind of weather. Actually interested to see where they came from, if they came from Hofmann's or if they came from Arethusa, because if they came from Hofmann's then they might be cutting straight across to Red Dam, whereas if they came from Arethusa side then they could very well be coming deep into Djuma. I just don't see where Darkmane went. His tracks aren't here. I know it rained this morning quite heavily, but we should still see his tracks here. Tracks on the road here. Okay, so these buffalo going west, they're not going to come east. You can see they've come from here. They came out of Hofmann's, which is not the worst thing because the Talamatis, the last time we had them was further down this road cutting in. Jacob, it depends if the prides see each other or not. It's quite common to have more than two prides in a similar area. Yesterday, the Talamatis and the Inkohumas were actually very, very close to one another. You can see the road here. These buffalo all came from this side, like this. So I just want to check along here just to see. But it happens, and unless they bump into each other, not very much. Sometimes they glide right past each other without even knowing they're there, especially if the prides are not roaring. Then you find that they can completely miss one another. But if they bump into each other, then it can be all-out warfare between the two prides. They can fight with one another and make quite a big scene. It doesn't look like there's anything of major interest from a cat perspective coming over. Wow, that was loud. Let's see, give these guys an update. Afternoon, Mike. It's just a large herd of buffalo mobile north on Mendoza Road from Zoe's side. You're welcome to go there. I've just left the lock, and that's it.
Okay. I'm trying to check around. We are telling me that it is straight to the west. Just want to start to check around, maybe Sequestration in that area.
Alright, copy. Yeah, I'll just check behind these buffalo, just see if there's not any sign for any lions. Darkmane was also this morning on Zoe's Philemon's Cutline Junction. So I don't know if he's still there and following those buffalo, but I'll have a look around. Alright, so we've given our updates. There's no sign of any lion tracks crossing with the buffalo, so that helps. Also no sign of Darkmane's tracks going over. So either he cut from where we had the last tracks this morning and came across towards Treehouse Dam, or he lay up in the block somewhere there. So we'll go Treehouse quickly, just check there, then bend back and see if he's woken up with the arrival of buffalo into the area. If he did lie up close to that area, I mean, he would be within about 300 meters of them, so it might trigger him to wake up and start heading in that direction. So we'll go and have a look. Although, given that he's on his own, I'm not sure how much buffalo hunting he's going to want to do. But you never know. Alrighty, we're going to just go towards Treehouse, like I said, to see what's happening there. In the meantime, let's send you across to Lauren, who's at a dam of her own.
Trusty, I don't have very much, really. But I do wish you the best of luck with Darkmane. Tristan secretly loves Darkmane. He was headed south this morning when we had to leave him. There's a chance he could have crossed out, but there's also a chance, knowing Darkmane, that he did not cross out. And I believe, from what I've been told, he's around a lot. So line up your questions, people, because my ability to find animals is not going very well today. I'm trying, do not worry. Faith, I did touch on this just a little bit earlier, but I don't know, you never know, but I really don't think anyone will come to drink. I could be wrong, of course. I mean, there was a lot of water, but depends on sort of the location that those individuals were in. If there's puddles on the ground of any of the pans, I haven't been around the reserve yet today. If they have filled up, all the moisture on the vegetation is highly unlikely that they'll need to quench their thirst at the dam today, I'm afraid. But you never know. I'm looking forward to catching up with everybody. All of you and all the animals out here. It's strange when you go away, you've got to sort of reacquaint yourself. Figure out what's been happening. And that's what I plan to do over the next few days. And I'm really, really hoping we get a check. And I must say, in all my time here, it's 3 years now, some of my favourite sightings have been with the Wig family. Literally, how habituated we all managed to get Seb Wig and Mom, Mrs. Wig, was unbelievable. I mean, that's probably the most habituated spotted eagle owl you'll ever find, and we learned so much from that experience. I know many of you fell in love with Seb Wig, so I'm really crossing all my fingers and toes that we get another sort of year like that, or even 6 months. Olivia sadly didn't make it, but hopefully this year the Wigs will be lucky. And a lot of you think it's the wigs. It's probably my accent. It's the wigs, as in a wig of hair that you would put on your head. And it's named after a Harry Potter owl called Hedwig. And so we called ours Sebwig. And now the entire family are the Wigs. Okay, I'm still searching. I will find my animal at some point.
Operating for 27 years, Eco Training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. WildEarth has been working closely with Eco Training to promote the safari guide industry and create awareness for its importance. This is why, for 1 month only, we are offering all WildEarth viewers an opportunity to receive a discount on an Eco Training safari guide course. Contact Eco Training today to find out more, and remember to quote Eco Wild Live to receive your discount.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We just found 2 big elephant bulls that we were watching. So at the moment we're on the downwind side from them, and we've just crouched a few moments ago. The wind had a little bit of a swirl, and it was most likely that they did detect us by means of scent. So as we just came out of that Eco Training promo, which is offering a good discount to join us on one of our courses. One of the courses that we do offer is actually a trails guide course where we actually teach you how to walk in the bush. However, if you would like to do trails guide, you still first need to go through the apprentice field guide course before you can continue on going on towards trails guide. There's quite a few different aspects to trails guiding, and that one is rifle handling is part of it, and the second part of it is the walking part of it, where you gain a sufficient amount of experience of how to walk in the bush and a sufficient amount of encounters to make sure that you are safe at what you are doing before you eventually will go through a mentorship process and eventually then become a backup. With a few years of experience, then you can become a lead rifle. Our elephants has moved off, and one of the reasons why I decided not to follow them is purely because they already detected us as the wind swirled. Quite often I find that it's best to leave animals when they have detected you and not to keep on following them, as this might actually intimidate them and lead to an aggressive encounter between you and the animal. Well, let's leave them. Let's let them move off in peace and quiet, and we'll continue on our walk and go and see what we can go and find.
Just sitting at Treehouse Dam, just kind of did a little loop round those buffalo. No sign of any tracks coming in, no sign of Darkmane going out, so he must still be around somewhere. Probably was feeling very sorry for himself after he got rained on this morning. We did see tracks for the dogs, but they were from, looks like last night, early this morning. Lots and lots of rain damage to those tracks. So nothing fresh, and it's heading in the direction where the last tracks were, which was on Triple M. So I think the dogs must have gone back west. They might have come back onto our side late in the morning, you never know, but the last time I saw them was in the western side. Well, the tracks, should I say, going into Arathusa side. A little hammerkop that's fishing a little bit. As you can see, Treehouse Dam hasn't really risen very much from the rain that we had. There's not a huge amount that came down. Still we'll need a lot more than this in order to fill this dam. Alright, well, our hammerkop is just trailing the edge of the dam as it does, trying to find little fish and frogs and various other things. But otherwise it's all very, very still at the dam, so I think we'll probably carry on from here and just loop back around Just want to try and see if we can't find Darkmane before we head a little bit further east. Well, no much sign of anything at Treehouse Dam. Oh, there's a steenbok. I didn't even see it on the other side of the dam. I was busy watching the Hammerkop that was on the edge. So there's just a little steenbok that's there. Otherwise, fairly quiet. I think we'll carry on and see what else is lurking around. There's a bit of heat that's come out, so I'm hoping we can get lucky. And in fact, I actually do want to head a little bit towards Chitwa now. I'll come back to this area. I was going to go kind of loop back around for Darkmane, but I think what I'm going to do instead is try and loop towards Chitwa, because there was a report of Shasha going in the Mulwanini, but I have a suspicion that it might be Tsemba, because they were saying that he was moving quickly. So I want to just actually go there. I forgot completely about that. So let's head that side first, and then we'll come back around. We'll give time for the Darkmane to realize buffalo are around and potentially stand up, or even prior to cross over onto our side, be able to talk to the guys from the eastern side, see what they tell me. But what there is everywhere is flies this afternoon. They're hugely irritating. It's from all the buffalo that have been around. You can see their dung is all over the place here, so the flies are landing on that and then landing on us. We also just came through a herd, so some of them would have just landed on the car and will continue to irritate us. I just admit I'm yearning for a fresh leopard track again, to just track something very, I don't know what it is, rewarding, or just something primal about getting fresh tracks and being able to follow them. It's difficult these days, you know, when it's just myself and Lauren and Pridelands. The ability to actually get off and follow tracks is pretty you can't really do it, so that part is a bit frustrating. But when you do get those fresh tracks, and even with a car, when you can follow a little bit and go, and there's this exhilaration of trying to think like a leopard and try and figure out where that animal's gone, and see if you can sort of test your skills and get it. I always like that kind of thing. I feel like I need that injection today, or a bit of an adrenaline spike. That's what I think. The rainy weather has got me all feeling flat. I don't know why. It just has. So we shall try and rectify that. It's going to be a little bumpy down here. Sorry, Mpo. Oh, sorry, little Diker. Kevin, sorry, the Diker ran away. Perfecting my tracking, still haven't got there, so better part of 13 years now, and we still haven't gotten that right. There's no such thing as perfecting tracking. I think tracking is an art form that you constantly learn and constantly get better at the more you do. In terms of understanding what tracks are and how to look for them and what you kind of want to do when you follow them, probably up until I kind of worked here, you know, I started getting better at it through the years, but really when I worked here and I had to do it a lot more for myself and couldn't rely on a tracker. You know, when you guide guests and if you're in lodges where you have good trackers, which, I mean, there's certain ones that have really good ones. I was fortunate in my time that I worked with 3 very good trackers, and then, you know, one that was a bit shaky and wasn't great. On hindsight, you know, at the time it wasn't so bad because I didn't really understand it as much, but you know, there were 3 that were on another level, and those 3 taught me a lot about tracking. But when you have trackers like that, you don't track. You pretty much, it wasn't my time to shine, you know, it was their time to do their thing. So I used to just drop them with the radio and they used to walk, and that was where they were happy and they would find things. So my tracking prowess didn't actually develop as much as it could have until I got to WildEarth. WildEarth, you don't have a tracker. You've got to do it all yourself. So your ability to find tracks and then follow them gets improved and honed. And then doing a lot of bushwalks at Djuma with Herbie, that trailing element and tracking kind of picked up very, very quickly. And I used to like working with Herbie because it was like dealing with somebody that knew what they were doing and just kind of soaked that up like a sponge. So yeah, I mean, I don't consider myself a very good tracker at all. I consider myself pretty average. I mean, I know what I can and can't do, and there are definitely trackers out there that are a million times better than I'll ever be. And that's okay. They have a natural skill for it and a natural understanding, and there's just a rhythm to them that is undeniably I'm enviable of it. It's just amazing to watch these guys at work. And I think if I had to dedicate myself wholeheartedly to tracking and do nothing else but just track, I think I'd get a lot better, a lot more proficient at it, and probably do a pretty good job.
Sorry about that, everyone. I don't know where Tristan has disappeared to, but knowing Tristy, he'll be back. And I'm not one to compliment Tristan out loud. I'd rather give him a hard time than tease him. He's like a big brother to me. But just building on his topic of tracking, out of all the colleagues I've worked with, at WildEarth since day dot, they're all incredible in every single way, but the most skilled and dedicated tracker out of the WildEarth team is definitely Tristan. He's incredible at it. He won't say that, of course, but he's a very, very good tracker. And that's not speaking about Rex and Morris and Herbie and all these wonderful guys, but just out of the core WildEarth team, my experience, Tristan is definitely the most skilled tracker. And he's right, it's something that you build up over time. And it was really like me going into the ocean. I know that sounds silly, but within minutes, I was back into my old self, remembering all the names of hundreds of different fish and behavior. I was able to work out what was going to happen before it happened. And it just all comes back to you, and you get better over time, and it's exactly the same. Understanding your landscape. The more time you spend in it, the more you're going to understand and the better you're going to become. But just like I touched on this morning, I don't think you can know everything. We think we do because we're humans, but I really don't think you can know everything. I think it's going to take a really long time to fully understand an ecosystem, if we will ever get there. We're only marginally putting the pieces together right now. Interconnectedness is something I'm just beginning to understand. The world is just beginning to understand how everything is connected. Humans like to work in boxes. We're very fascinated with boxes. I'm not sure why. We love a box. Okay, talking of boxes, I'm looking through a box right now, but I am going to continue my ever adventurous search for some animals.
Here we are. We are on an expedition. This is the expeditionary force. Behind me, we have seen Candelabra. We are very excited.
We had a very exciting start to our morning this morning. Today, it's our guided sunrise safari with Mike, and we started by looking at the moon through a telescope, which was incredible. It's been a very different drive from all the other ones, very interactive.
Your pigeal gland is something the hoopoes have in common.
Hi. This morning's drive with Mike was thoroughly enjoyable. He really engaged us, but we also did some birding, and I managed to add a few new birds onto my list. Overall, every single experience with all the competitors has been really incredible, but it's up to the judges now.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops! Oof!
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Sadly, not much is happening. I'm going to fall asleep, everyone. Tell me a joke. Send in your jokes. Or your difficult questions, or at least make me think a little bit. But in all seriousness, I would love a joke, by the way. I've always been serious about that. But talking or building upon that sort of theme of interconnectedness, it's not just in subtle links. Okay, the predators eat the prey and the prey eat the grass. It's not just that sort of interconnectedness that I'm actually talking about. We've got a grey heron. Thank goodness for you. There we go. I was going to do a catwalk across the screen. But it's also in other ways. For example, it's recently been proven, there's a fantastic paper actually. I say fantastic, I'm lying. I didn't enjoy it. I hated it. It's a very heavy paper. It took me about 6 reads before I generally got the idea of what it was trying to say. But it's now been proven that large fish, and we're talking about pelagics, I'm not talking about the reef fish. We're looking at a water body, so we can talk about fish. But the pelagics, including your sharks, including your rays, they are fish. They actually help mitigate the effects, so they act as buffer of climate change. And they do this by supporting carbon sequestration. Now, that sounds a bit complicated, doesn't it? But what it basically means is that there is carbon in all land animal in the bodies, any body of any animal, and it's accrued into the body. And when they die, if you sort of take the fish, for example, you fish them, you open up on land, that carbon is then released into the atmosphere, and that's one of the big problems right now, carbon getting into the atmosphere. Whereas if you don't fish these animals, the really large fish, and you let them die naturally, they will sink to the bottom of the ocean. They will, of course, become food for many animals down there, but they will eventually decay. And the carbon is either left undisturbed and locked up for thousands of years, or is released into the ocean. And that's what makes the ocean one of the largest carbon sinks in the world. And they call this blue carbon. Because, you know, well, the ocean's blue, supposedly. Is it really, though? And now I've got to catch my heron. It's now really been proven that we have to look at the way we fish, what we fish, how we fish, because you keep taking these large fish, including your sharks, including your rays, out of the water. Not only is it decimating their populations, but also it's affecting carbon sequestration, which is having an effect on climate change. It's a difficult topic, and it's really ugly paper. I'm not going to recommend it to any of you. But the result is the same. Leave the fish in the sea, at least the big ones. Leave more big fish in the sea, and this locks in millions and millions of carbon into the ocean rather than into the atmosphere. So, my grey heron made a dash for it, but we are going to send you from Djuma all the way down to Cape Town.
We are coming cross country to Djuma to Cape Town in one fell swoop. How lovely is that? So nice to have a live feed coming out to you from Cape Town this afternoon. My name's Devin. If you don't know me, behind the camera we've got Igor. He's going to be doing all the magic today for us here in the Cape. And we're at Cozy Bay. It's beautiful. It's quite windy and blustery, which is why I've kind of crouched down here now, just trying to get my head out of the gusts. And it's a beautiful day. The visibility here in Cape Town is actually looking really nice on this side this afternoon. The water's crystal clear and it's got this like Mediterranean turquoisey blue color, which for the people who are not too familiar with the Cape, looks very inviting and nice and warm. But for those that are more initiated, it's pretty chilly, and I haven't felt it, but I would guess probably lower than 10 degrees today, which is not unusual for the coastline here, but certainly something to consider before donning board shorts and jumping in. I just want to show you something that I thought was really interesting. So we're in this intertidal zone here now, and you'll see at my feet here on the side of this wall, there's a whole lot of seaweed that's growing. And just to give you a bit of a better idea, I'm going to move out of the light here and hopefully not get wet. The seaweed up over here, you can see super dry, super hard, super crinkly and crusty. Crunch, 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 crunch. And as we come down, and my feet get about to get wet, it gets progressively more and more wet. So down here, this hasn't been dry for very long, not so crinkly. Oh, you can eat it if you want, but it's quite chewy. You've got to cook it first or dry it out actually. But this is just a perfect indication of the tide, and every day the tide, you can see now, is really low. The water back at the bottom is, a good meter when the surge goes out below this line over here. And when the tide comes in and is always all the way at full tide, it'll kind of be here, it'll be washing up onto the top of this rock to the rest of the seaweed that's on this rock here. And this is part of the intertidal zone. Really, really cool. There's lots of creatures in this intertidal zone we're going to be looking for. For now, we're going to send you across to JP. We're going to continue scouring this intertidal zone though, and hopefully going to come back to you shortly with some small little creatures to show you this afternoon.
Welcome back to Bushwalk. We're just busy looking at the track of a spotted hyena. So earlier on we were talking about tracks, and I've also been asked a question about tracks by Dylan. And the question is it easier to track after rain? There's a number of different answers to that question, and one of them is going to depend how much rain has fallen and also on what swell type you are tracking. But generally we do find that in certain types of swell, like clay swells, a track can show up very nicely after it's rained. We can also use rain to actually age a track, because quite often if it has rained and the footprint is broken, the crust of a swell, and we see a clear marking on the inside, we know that the track is fresh. If we know that there's raindrops on the inside of a track, then we already know that the track is old and that it's maybe not worthwhile following up on. It also depends on knowledge of knowing when has it rained. It's also important to take in consideration knowledge such as when the wind was blowing, for how long it was blowing, and for how strong it was blowing when you want to try and age tracks. One of the easiest methods for me to actually age tracks, and how we learned to age tracks, was to look at your own footprints, make a mark in the swell, come back an hour and study that and make a fresh set next to it. And for every hour you can make a new set, and by tomorrow you can come back and you can come and study those number of different tracks you've created to see how they've aged. And once again you can take in consideration the different types of swell as well as weather conditions that was adhering. So with Eco Training, if you would like to come and join us, there's a discounted price at the moment as a promotional that we are advertising. We do offer a tracking component or a tracking course as part of our year-long course, where you'll be able to get a qualification based on how good you are with tracking. And those normally go from a 1 to a level 2 to a level 3 and to a 4 if you're really, really good at what you are doing. I do find tracking incredibly rewarding, and the more you practice it, the better you get at it. It's also for us an incredibly important way of actually knowing what is going on in our environment. One of the other aspects that's important with tracking is actually to start thinking like the animal, and that really helps you to find those animals when you are following them. We're going to continue and follow our trail and see what else we can go and find.
Excuse me, everyone. That was not so delightful for you all. However, I had a sudden urge to sneeze here. I do apologize. I am still surveying my land, surveying my dam from the wonderful camera that is perched onto a tree. There's sadly nothing at the moment. It's dark though, it's very difficult to tell. We're working with low ambient light. Ah, that's a little bit better. I'm just going to slowly put it on pan so that you can just listen to all the sounds and enjoy watching the dam. There's something quite tranquil about sitting here. Just no one knowing you're watching the world go by.
Welcome back to Cape Town. So we've just climbed up this rock a little bit away from the sea, and Igor asked me a question that he wanted to know the answer to, which is actually really interesting. So we're just going to send you across to the couple of these rocks over us here, and it's related to what we were just looking at now. These rocks that have all got seaweed on top of them. So the tide plays a crucial role in what's happening in front of us here. And the fact that it raises and lowers itself every day means that certain things are able to grow in certain spaces. Now, animals like crabs, sea urchins, and a whole host of other animals, abalone as well, they all feed on like sea grasses, little algae that are growing, which is actually what these seaweeds are. They're a plant. And where they are situated on the tidal mark is quite unique. You'll notice on this rock in front of us here that they are growing on top of the rock, but as soon as it starts going down the side, there's nothing. And the reason for that is that animals like crabs and sea urchins don't want to be out the water. They want to be in the water or as close to being in the water as possible, because as soon as they come out the water, crabs especially, they are very vulnerable to attack from birds. So below the water mark that is now, where it is now, that's the kind of the low tide mark. Below that is underwater all the time, completely accessible by crabs, sea urchins, all those types of animals that are going to eat the seaweed. And where the seaweed is adapted to living, really unique, is on top of the rock. where it spends some of its day in the water and some of its day out the water. And we see that reflected across these granite boulders all over the top, all over and around us here. Now, the kelp forests, which is quite different, are much harder. And these kelp forests have got these really hard tube stems that attach to the ground and are much harder to be consumed by those animals. Riley has an interesting question for us, and she would like to know whether or not there are any water spiders here in Cape Town. Now, I've never seen one, Riley, and I think that's pretty safe to say that there aren't any that live particularly here in Cape Town in the sea. I would have to triple check. It is a very interesting question. It's not something I've thought about before. I know that in the mountains and in the rivers, in the mountains and in the streams, that side, we do get animals, and especially spiders, that live in and around the water there. But for the most part on our coastline here, we don't really see too many spiders. Occasionally some snakes out on the rocks, but even those prefer to be more up in the mountains. Igor, I don't know if we can maybe show everyone and Riley how close we are in this environment where we are now to the actual mountain. This is like a really, really cool zone. The mountain falls away and falls into the sea pretty much. We've got these beautiful granite boulders that form the base of Table Mountain, which is a really strong base. And these rocks are really hard and very resistant to weathering, especially from salt water and wind. And even waves. I mean, if we look at this rock on the left, it really does look like it's been eaten away at the base by water. But you might find that that rock slightly more exposed, slightly different mineral composition, for example. But for the most part, these boulders around here are quite hard. I've fallen on them a couple times, and my knees will tell you as well that they are quite hard. You can see again below us here, there's more kelp, there is kelp in the water, but there's this seaweed again growing on the top flats of this rock, which is actually very high and dry at the moment. But when this tide comes in, and in particular when this tide comes in on the full moon, and there's a spring tide, we'll see the waves and water washing over this section, which is really fascinating. And it's things like these that make this section of coastline so interesting and so exciting and so diverse. There are these little niches that allow all sorts of life to grow and to live. We are going to carry on walking along the shore here. We're going to do some bouldering, rock hopping, and continue looking for little nuggets of cool stuff that's going on. We're going to send you to Lauren now, though, and she's going to look after you until we find the next thing.
Not up to very much, but I am contemplating the ocean and its blueness. I was only teasing about that earlier. Of course, the ocean's not blue. I mean, water is clear, unless it's thick with sediment, of course, but generally water is clear. And when there's a lot of water, it's obviously a deep body of water, like what we're looking at here. I'm going to use my camera skills to zoom in to some creative shots. There we go. And when it's deep, of course, the water will appear dark because there's no reflections. The ocean is blue due to the absorption and scattering of light. It appears blue to us. It may not appear blue to other organisms that can see light in a different spectrum from us. And it's amazing. When you're in the water, the first color to disappear are your reds. So I think it's yellow to start with, then orange, then red. So for any of you that may be thinking about doing your dive course, you learn that your instructor will give you a bright red piece of neoprene, and it's so bright red, it's deliciously scarlet red, and you have to take that underwater with you. And once you get to a certain depth, it's normally quite quick you lose red, so let's just say below 10 meters, they ask you to look at this piece of neoprene, and when you look at it, it's pitch black. And you think, huh? But that was red. How can it be black? What's happened? Nothing's changed. It's just the way that your vision perceives that when the water absorbs oranges, yellows, and reds very, very quickly, and that's why it appears blue, because it takes a very long time to absorb the blue. But the ocean isn't actually blue, if that makes sense. Yeah, just thinking out loud here. But I did find some jokes. Thank you, guys. Bear with me. Joy in Hong Kong, I saw the part of your riddle. I want to know the rest. Give me your riddle about the hippopotamus. But Gizmo, you are saying, how much would it cost you to swim with the sharks? It would cost you an arm and a leg. No! Oh, Gizmo, okay. You're winning so far. I did enjoy that one, especially since I ranted on this morning about sharks not being dangerous. But Joy in Hong Kong, I've met Joy personally, and I want to know the rest of this riddle. It looks like Wendy will get out a little bit later, so hopefully we will make it to the Wicks house before it gets too dark. Fingers crossed. Okay, I'm going to sit and enjoy my water body that is not blue. We're going to send you guys over to JP on Bushwalk.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We've just been asked by Bentley which toxic plants do we have out here and which is the most toxic of a plant species we have. So one of the most toxic plant species which we can probably find over here on Pridelands is this tree, which is known as a tamboti. It's fairly easily recognized by its dark brown coloration to the bark, also the blocky appearance to it. If you go slightly higher up the tree, you'll notice that there's got some leaves on it. Those leaves are simple and they are slightly serrated at the edge. And when we do break them off, we'll actually notice that there's a milky sap on it. What you don't want is to get that on your skin as well as in your eyes. Neither do you want to use this wood as firewood, as it can potentially make you very, very ill. Now, one of the other trees that we do have in the area, which I haven't seen on Pridelands, but close by, is known as a bushveld Candelabra Euphorbia, also sometimes going by the name of most deadly Euphorbia. It also has copious amounts of latex. It also belongs to the Euphorbia family, which is the same family as to which the tamboti belongs, and they are incredibly toxic. And they're also been known to use for killing fish as well, just like the tamboti is. Quite often, both species have been used for actually the treatment of healing toothache or tooth that are rotting, and a minute drop will be put onto the tooth, and then it will kill it into the root system. However, I would not recommend that you try this, as you can potentially poison yourself. There's another member of the Euphorbia family that I have seen in the area, and that is known as a dead man's bush. And it's also regarded as one of the most toxic members within that Euphorbia family. It's quite easily identifiable by its large leaves and often red spots in the leaf, as it's believed by many African cultures to be so toxic when birds fly over it that they will die. And the red spots in the leaf represents the blood of those birds that have flown over. It's also quite an effective tree that's often used in many African cultures to be planted outside homesteads to ward off people from coming there to do harm over you. Well, we're going to move on and go and see which other plants we can go and get. Let's go and see what Tristan is up to.
Well, the dark man has popped out of the woodwork on the main road. We just drove here just now and he wasn't here. So he's obviously been moving, interestingly enough, away from where the buffalo are, which is not what I expected. I was expecting him to go kind of with the buffalo. I also got a report that the Talamati Pride crossed into Djuma behind those buffalo somewhere, but not where we checked, a little bit further to the west of that. So I was on my way there to go and try and figure out where they went, and like I say, dark men just happened to be lying right next to the main road. The sighting is going to be absolute pandemonium, and it already is at the moment. There's already 450 million cars that want to come to the sighting, so we're not going to stay long, unfortunately. Also don't think he's going to stay on this main section for too long. I think he's going to Well, you never know actually with him, so I've seen him sleep right next to the road here, but it's going to be a busy afternoon for him if he wants to sleep here. There's going to be a lot of cars coming past, not only game drive vehicles, but this is the main thoroughfare for a whole bunch of lodges. So there's a lot of staff transport and things that goes past. So yeah, it's going to be a tough afternoon. I think his sleep is going to not be precious this afternoon. He's going to be interrupted a fair amount. So he's watching something come past. Don't you love it when they look up like that? It's one of my favorite things when lions do that kind of stuff. So nice when he's looking up. Because the nice thing about when lions look up like that is that you get their eye color, which is exactly what you want. So it must have been something that was flying over. Betty, is true, he does love to have a little nap, so it is nice that he's up and looking around. I'm pretty sure it's because of the weather. Really nice weather for him to be moving, and those buffalo that have kind of just crossed up ahead here would have potentially kept him awake as well. So just as we're saying that, though, he's going to go to sleep, which is pretty par for the course, because he is one of those cats that often has a very large nap. And I'm sure he's walked a little bit now, so it's time to kind of relax. He must have been just in this block behind where he is now, in the long grass, because we didn't check the fire break area. We just checked this main section. There's no ways we would have driven past a lion like this. I actually was checking very carefully along here, and he's lying pretty much on the road. We would have hit him basically, because I would have been driving on that left side. So Paul would have noticed him for sure. Alright, well, we'll sit with him for a little while longer. We'll probably be able to maybe do one more sort of little segment on him, and then we'll have to carry on. Just like I said, the number of vehicles is quite staggering that wants to come here, and don't feel like sitting in the chaos of all of that.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, then we are excited to announce that there is another unique prize for you to win. Sign up to be an explorer before the 16th of October 2021, and you and a friend could be heading off to an eco-training ranger experience. This 2-night opportunity offers a living and learning adventure where you will combine seeing incredible nature with gaining knowledge on how animals live in the wild. You will approach dangerous game on foot, learn how to track, do some 4x4 driving, and have an exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team behind the scenes on the live show. After each action-packed day, you will relax around the campfire and listen to the nighttime choir of animal sounds before you drift off to sleep. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
The scrap here collected a dry grass, put it next to the water hole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when he finished the water, he just lied down on the grass. And then, that was the opportunity of the scrappy. You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
Well, as you can see, Darkman has just popped his head up again, and that's because there's a car that's moving at the moment. So he's just watching that car going about its business. I'm sure he'll start to settle down now. It was a little yawn. A very little yawn for a male lion. Oh, bless you. Quite funny, the guest behind us just had an absolute panic when he sneezed. They got such a fright. I'm sure some of you watching might have gotten a fright too. I thought maybe something was happening. See, I was just watching. I must admit, his mane has gotten beautiful. He's definitely got a beautiful big mane. It's especially on top of his head. It's grown out quite nicely the last couple of months. He always had quite a short little bit on top, but it's definitely fluffed out. So looking pretty stellar bar this leg injury that he's got. It's a shame. I think if he didn't have that leg injury, I think he would have done some very cool stuff, this lion. And I think the challenge from S8 would have been far more complicated than it has been. I don't think he would have relinquished those 3 females as easily as he has. Also looks as though he could do with a meal. Looks pretty skinny around the back. I was hoping that he was going to go the other way so that he could connect with the pride again for a little while. But it seems as though that's not the case. See, he's watching vultures, that's why his head is up the way it is and looking into the sky. They're very good at seeing where vultures are and then paying attention and following said vultures in order to find what they are looking for. Often vultures can indicate a food source for them. Especially as a male on his own, if he sees a couple vultures ascending and these buffalo tracks, could very well be an indicator for him that one of the prides has made a kill, and then potentially he can pillage. If it's the Talamatis, obviously they'll just allow him in, but if it's the Nkuhumas, it'll be very interesting to see what would happen there. I think it would be a bit of a warfare that would take place over that kill. Oh, it's nice with his eyes looking up like that. Sadly, not often, no. And the reason for that is that from a food perspective, they don't really want him around. He eats too much. So nicer for them when he's not there, because they have a much better chance of getting a fair amount of food. So they don't actively go search for him. But what they often will do is they'll move within the area that he's roaring, if they have cubs, because they will want his protection, and his roaring is a audible boundary that's being marked. So he's telling everybody, this is my area, don't come in. So they'll kind of hang around within his audible range, but they don't seek him out. Like I say, he's a pain in their backside from a food point of view. He just eats everything. So you'll find that they try and avoid that as much as possible. But I love when he's looking up like that. It's such a cool thing to see. It's always nice when vultures are circling around and lions take an interest in them. I'm surprised he hasn't heard those buffalo, though, and gone in that direction. I'm sure he'll be pretty vocal tonight as well. He was vocal last night. I heard him a few times roaring in the night, so I'm pretty sure we'll see the same from him tonight as well. Alright, Right, I'm probably going to leave him now just because, like I said, there's a number of other cars that want to come here from both sides. Unfortunately, it's on a boundary road. So if it opens up, then we'll come back to him. In the meantime, we'll go try to see if we can find the rest of the pride that was reported to be not too far away. And so we'll send you across to JP, who's still on his walk.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We are still looking at a number of different tracks as well as field signs. When it comes to tracking, it also takes a good knowledge of the specific species of which you are tracking in terms of their behavior, which makes the process of tracking much easier. But it also helps if you know which field signs to look for, which field signs those animals will leave behind. And one of the field signs that we have over here is where a tree has been used as a rubbing post after an animal has wallowed in mud and then came over here to get rid of the excess mud as well as the parasites that might be stuck to the coat. And the hairs that we can see and at the height at which it occurs would indicate that it's warthog, which is one of the 4 most common species of animals which will utilize the process of wallowing and rubbing posts. If it's slightly higher, up to 1.5, 1.7 meters, it will be buffalo or either rhino, and above 1.7 meters, it would indicate that it's elephant. But as we have a look over here, we also find some more hairs. These are much longer. I'm just going to pull them off over here. And these are the back hairs from a warthog. So let's try and pull them out of the mud. You can see how long they are. So quite often these hairs are utilized by the warthog by raising them to actually look larger and more intimidating. This is a process that is known as phylloerection, and warthogs aren't the only animals that utilize this strategy. We see it even in domesticated dogs and animals such as lion, which will simply raise its mane and make it look larger so that it can intimidate any rival male that wants to try and compete with it in an aggressive encounter. We also find that porcupines will do a similar behavior by raising their quills and also creating a larger shape than that they are really, and then simply move backwards into the potential threat that will harass it. Warthogs itself, they can also protect themselves in a number of different ways. If this behavior of making itself look larger and more intimidating doesn't work, the first strategy is to freeze, the second strategy is to flee, and the best way to do it is to simply run off and make a 180-degree turn into a burrow which you know that is available for you. And warthogs often check these little burrow systems to make sure that there's nobody else inside there. And they'll slide backwards into that burrow and sit with those tusks to the outside. And those tusks are absolute formidable weapons which can slice open an animal if they do get in contact with the tusks. The next strategy, which we mentioned, is the tusks and how they can be used, and that's the fighting part. So most animals will always use those 3 steps, first by freezing, then by fleeing, and then by fighting, because you always want to avoid getting into an encounter or aggressive encounter with another species, because being injured potentially means that you can't feed successfully or take care of yourself or make yourself more vulnerable to a predator. Well, we're going to move off, and in the meanwhile, we would like to just quickly link you to the Djuma expedition promo.
Welcome back to our Rocky Shore Intertidal Zone. I can't take any credit for this next one. Igor, our cameraman, spotted and helped identify because I couldn't really see what it was from this distance. But we're going to send you across to the rocks on the right here, and I hope it's still there, because now I've moved out of position. Igor's just making sure that he can get a nice stable shot for you. I'm going to come across to make sure I can see it. So this little shiny, kind of slobbery thing is a species of clingfish, also known as rock suckers. And if you watch very carefully, we'll just wait, looks very similar to a piece of kelp or a piece of seaweed hanging onto the rock. And that'll be for defense against things like birds. We were chatting about birds earlier and how they would hunt animals that are coming up above the water, but you can see right on the edge of the water there. And it's so cool. So these fish are specialist hunters. They've got these fangs. I'm going to call them fangs. They're specialized teeth that they use for prying limpets off of rocks. Now, I don't know. Igor, my man, I've got another one for you here. Come turn around. This one's way closer. Now that we know what to look for, suddenly the rock suckers are jumping out everywhere. Right on top of this rock over here. Oh, that's my head. No, it's all good. It's all good. We've got to get the shot here. So it's right in the middle of this rock that's high and dry at the moment. There we go. You can just see the eyes there and the water washing over it. Oh no! There it is. Well, that's another one. That's a huge one. This is Rock Sucker Central. I can't believe we haven't seen these before. So it's just on the edge there. Can you see it? You can see its eyes really nicely. So this one is now, maybe it got maybe it saw me pointing and got a fright. About it. But that was super cool, like so incredible. Like when we walk along here normally I don't look for rock sucker fish, but really incredible. So they'll actually use their teeth to flip limpets over. Now limpets are these little shelly creatures. We'll find one for you in a little bit. We're gonna have to not look that hard, but just move from where we are now. So we'll send you across to Lauren for a short little while, and then we will come back to you with the limpet and we can see how tight they are attached to rocks.
It's looking extremely dark now on the dam cam. It's not actually that dark, but I do have some good Marlon 8. Why can't what eat? Ha ha ha, that's definitely a dad joke. Definitely a dad joke, that one. I think this is probably my favorite one. I'm not sure if they're all from the same person. It's not clear, but it's definitely my favorite joke of the day. Why did the fish blush? Because it saw the ocean's bottom. Oh, love it. Definitely my favorite joke today because it involves the word bottom. Anyway, I'm not going to be a child. I'm going to try and find some animals and answer all your wonderful questions. Hopefully they'll be out there soon though. You see how still the water body is. No rain, no ripples. That's a good sign. You can always read the sort of conditions from the water. Oh, maybe it's drizzling. But it's not windy. A stagnant body of water like that, if you see any movement, any ripples, it means that it's coming from the surface. So it's coming from the air. Connor, you're asking about intelligence. Ooh. I believe all animals are intelligent. And that's my personal opinion. I read a lot of books about intelligence. It really fascinates me. In the animal kingdom, at least. And humans, that's a different story. But I think they're all intelligent. And James Hendry used to say, each and every organism is as intelligent as it needs to be, and I completely and utterly agree with that. No energy is really wasted in the animal kingdom. And in order to survive out there, not only survive, it's not really just about survival, is it? It's all about thriving. It's all about reproduction. So it's not just about making sure that you yourself survive. It's also about ensuring that you can then reproduce, be it a male, be it a female, be it a hermaphrodite, whichever species you are. And at the end of the day, I think all organisms are intelligent. I think as humans, sometimes we struggle to relate and actually understand that intelligence. And there's a fantastic documentary on Netflix, and what is that series called? It will come to me. And there's one on animal intelligence, and it's only 20 minutes long. I completely recommend it if you've got the time. And it shows you different ways that you can mark intelligence. For example, they say that manta rays are the most intelligent fish because they have the largest brain size of all fish. But is it just brain size that really denotes how intelligent an animal is? Is it just because it has a large brain in relation to body size? That's not always the case. And there's actually 5 markers of intelligence. There's social intelligence, tool use, future planning, culture, and self-awareness. And these are different markers of intelligence. It's not always just the size in relation to the body. I mean, a big brain sounds great, but that's not all there is to go on. So that is a great question. I'm not sure I answered it the way you wanted to, but at least I tried. I think all animals are intelligent. We've managed to find a starling. Lucky, lucky day. When all else failed, got a starling. I don't know which starling it is. I don't know if it's a Birchall's. It's very difficult to see. But let's see if we can get some 5 out of 5 views for you. Oh no, don't go out of focus. Nope, that's not going to work. That is not blue chip filming right there. But this might work. And you can see off in the distance there, that's another property. The bush is so thin right now, you can see for miles. Birds can be highly entertaining as well when they sit still for a moment, so let's just enjoy watching this starling for a moment or two. Thank you, little starling, for being so obliging. Sitting there perfectly for an entire 2.5 minutes. I am very impressed.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We just decided to take a short little break as we can't find anything at the moment. A lot of the tracks has actually been blown away from the wind that we experienced yesterday, and the rest of them has actually been washed away by a little bit of rain that we had. So you're more than welcome to actually ask us any questions. If there's any questions you have, we will try and answer them to the best of our knowledge. Good afternoon, Thomas, and welcome to the show. And with regards to the question, what would you do and what would you use to survive? The first and most important thing that you would like to do is try to not expose yourself to extreme temperatures, either heat or cold, because you can approximately survive at opposite ends of cold or heat for approximately 3 hours. You want to create shade, as well as to prevent that you dehydrate if it's an incredibly warm period of time. If it's incredibly cold, you want to try and heat yourself up, maybe make a small little fire. There's a number of different things that you can use in terms of plants, how you can create fire as well as means of shelter. You can use the fig trees as well as the corkwood and also the chestnut tree to make yourself a base plate if you can find a piece that's dry enough. And then simply go and look for a raisin bush and you can make your little friction stick from that if you need to create that. The next thing, shelter against the elements, but also shelter against potentially dangerous animals. And one of the things that I've used to make is little survival shelters, normally against a tree like this, and you'll put another piece of stick over here, and then you'll put little pieces of sticks down, and then you'll brush back it with thorn trees to prevent the predators try and come and dig you out there. And one of the things that we were always taught and that we also still teach students, if you are there out at night time and you're on your own and you have to sleep somewhere in a wilderness area to protect yourself, very simple. Keep some cable ties in your backpack and strap your knife onto the tip of that stick. Once you've created your shelter, you can also then pull a branch of a thorn tree into the shelter to protect you and then put the stick outwards. The other important things that you need is water. You can actually go for several days without water before you seriously become dehydrated. But also very important, lastly, is food. And that you can actually go out for much longer. You can actually end up several weeks without food. And there's a number of different ways that we can make traps as well as snares out of here. It's quite difficult if you're only going to try and feed off on plant material to survive, because quite often what you do find is that the fruiting trees will only have fruit on in the summer months. Well, for the rest of the year, there's no fruits on them to eat, and there's very little other plant parts that you can feed. So the most important thing is to look for protein. If you are going to look for protein, you can eat frogs, but not all frog species, but I would not take toads. You can also eat snakes. You just chop off their head, and then you have to cook them as well. Some of the other things that you can look for is tortoises, but do not try and eat terrapins, because terrapins are incredibly disgusting. Okay, personally, I've not been in a situation where I had to go to that extreme to keep myself alive in the bush. However, we used to, in the past, go on a survival course for several weeks where we would actually learn all these skills and how to get along with the absolute minimum while we're out here. It's actually surprising how little food you actually do need to keep yourself going. Well, we're going to move on and go and see what else we can go and find. Let's go and see what the guys are up to at the beach.
Interesting, JP. I'm just having to move my feet here to stop them from getting wet. Excuse me. Interesting you're talking about all these things that you can do to survive in the bush, because there's quite a few things you can do to survive in the Cape as well, along the coastline. There's a whole host of animals around here that you can consume. So we've got, for starters, a little bit of nori, also known as seaweed. Quite salty. It's better when you dry it out first. It's quite hard to swallow and not much nutritional value, to be honest. I think, if I can remember correctly, trace amounts of iodine in here, which are important. for us, but we don't need very much of it, and not really any carbohydrate or anything else. But I did promise you a limpet, so that's what we're actually here to show you. You can see over here there's a whole wall of limpets. It's covered, and we're talking about that suckerfish and how hard it is to get limpets off of whatever they're limpeting onto. Now you can see, oh, I'm just going to wait for you to get here. Oh, there's a little bit of water that came out. That, I promise you, is not going anywhere. No. It's a healthy limpet, that is. Now these limpets filter feed, so they sit on the rock here like this, with a gap between the rock and their shell, and their sucker sits against the rock, and then as the water washes across, it brings through nutrients, little particles of bits and pieces, maybe particles of seaweed, maybe particles of other dead animals, and they'll feed on that. Really interesting. Now, you can eat limpets. I've never eaten one. I don't think they're particularly nice. I do know that they get quite smelly if you keep them. People use them as bait sometimes. But I'm going to turn your attention to a couple other things that we can eat. So, if we have a look down in here, in this gully, you'll see, oh, that's a very big limpet, but there are a whole lot of mussels just over here. Let me turn around for you. You get them, Eagle? So those are little Mediterranean mussels, these ones with a slightly blue tinge. They came to South Africa on the bottom of ships and have done really, really well. So they are not endemic, they don't occur here naturally, but they are really, really good to eat, and there's plenty of them. So if you get the correct permit from the post office, it's pretty easy to do. You can go and collect your own. You should probably do a little bit of research first though, because you can get sick if you don't do the job quickly. Eagle's feet are very wet, so I made a quick escape there. But there's so much to forage along this coastline if you know what to look for. We've got a whole host of mussels, and there's actually a couple barnacles down on the rocks down underneath there, and some sea anemones. I don't know if you can eat sea anemones, I wouldn't imagine you can. But if you know what to look for, there's lots and lots to eat. Lots of protein-rich foods. The mussels are really good. You can, historically would have been able to quite easily catch fish along here. Can we see any of those sea anemones? Very, very cool. So we've been talking a lot about the intertidal zone today, and it's really nice to talk about it when the tide's low, because then we can actually see it. When the tide's high, it's kind of the wrong time of day to be looking, but you can see all these very colorful sea anemones down here now that are close to the low water mark, but just above it. Blues and pinks and purples, they are really, really, really stunning. Okay, we're going to carry on going and see what the next little critter is that we can find. But I have no doubt that we're going to find something cool, because there's so much happening here.
It's day one of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, And our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
It's either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, 2 to go.
The dogs went Manyaleti.
Need to apologize for that, but not to worry. We've got something very, very cool to show you right down and over here. So, if you come look very carefully down, the tide's really low now, and this is honestly the best opportunity to show you the most beautiful things. Just give Igor a moment to get his footing and find the sea anemone in his frame though. Really, really, really beautiful. I mean, I find the textures of sea anemones so wonderful. Those delicate little feelers that they've got. I'm not sure if that's the correct term. We've got right next to it, we've got a periwinkle and a baby periwinkle. Some more limpets, and there's even a tiny little starfish just over there. I don't know, there, touched it. And this is not unusual for these little, I mean, this is the
Well, we've just got Darkmane arriving with the Talamati Pride. We've had a bit of an eventful last little bit. It's been pretty chaotic because we had the wild dogs crossing as well, 4 of them, but we had no signal with them. And then the Talamatis have popped out and Darkmane's joined, and they are now on the trail of those buffalo. The buffalo are not far from us. They're about 100 meters, 200 meters up the road from where we are. So hopefully the Pride is going to go straight in that direction and start to hunt those buffalo. And it's going to be a bit chaotic for a little bit, unfortunately, because of the boundary system that is here. There's a number of vehicles that are in the sighting, so it's going to be a little bit hectic for a bit, but it should calm down and we should be all right. You can see everybody greeting Darkmane, being very happy that he is back and with them. It's the support for a buffalo hunt that was vitally needed. Alrighty, let's turn around so that we can follow these guys. Just wait for them to come past so that they don't get a fright. one with a little stumpy tail. It's behind us, or in front there. So there's going to be a few vehicles, unfortunately. Like I said, we just need to understand that that's the boundaries. And so normally what we do is on these boundary roads, we normally have only 3 vehicles in a sighting, and that just keeps it from stressing the animals too much, and also at the same time not worrying about having people in the way from photographic point of view. But when it's on a boundary, what we'll do is we'll do 2 and 2, so 2 from each side, so it actually goes up to 4. Sometimes it depends on how busy it is. So we'll see. Let's just slowly get past and we'll go up to the top. Pretty sure these lions are going to eventually hunt these buffalo. I don't think they're going to settle for too long, especially now that dark mane is in attendance. Just want to get ahead here quickly, then we'll turn around. Unfortunately, though, it's going to be a case where we're going to have a few vehicles. Oof. It's a big ridge to get up. Trying to find a place where it's not going to be such a steep bank and a big bump to get up. I always like to try and go a little bit further than everybody else. It gives us a chance to kind of have them walk towards us without having them sort of cluttered against cars, but it seems like they don't want to walk. It seems like they want to lie down now. So it's going to stop here for now. Sorry, I know there's a car there, guys, and I apologize, but here's what it is. I think everyone's going to sit. There we go. Let's see now. It will require the older females to walk for the pride to keep coming. If that doesn't happen, then it's going to be a case that they're all going to sit there. You can see one of the young males on the right, just walking up the hill. So you might see vehicles. I believe a lot of you are very happy that Dark Mane is back with the pride. I apologize about a vehicle parking right behind them. It makes obviously our life pretty tricky from our ability to film. So let's try and just see if everyone kind of parks where they're going to park, then I'm going to have to reposition and move. It's good that he's back with the pride. Like I say, it's welcome ammunition for buffalo hunting. It's going to make life easier, but it seems the other vehicles are leaving now, which is good. So he kind of panic has been calmed. This always happens when you also have two things busy on a main road joining. So Dark Mane was on Talamati kind of on their own end, which has created 2 kind of sightings merging. It takes a bit of time just to sort of, once that happens, then everything calms down to a mild panic and we're all good. All right, Paul, let's move a little bit. It seems like the pride has all gone static there. I was hoping they were going to come up a little bit. Like I say, I always like to park much further away than everybody else. I hate having cars all around me. It's one of my things that frustrates me intensely. So didn't quite work this time, but we'll go and just come a little bit closer and see what they're doing. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Dev, who's found something at the beach.
Lions picked up something really interesting, and it links in really well to actually everything we've been talking about today. So over here, I don't want to tilt it too much, but we've got quite a large limpet. It's dead, unfortunately, so I guess that's what it is. In the bottom of the limpet here, you can see all the fleshy part of it. And then wiggling around on the inside are 6 sea snails. Now, when I picked this up, all of the sea snails were actually busy feeding on the white fleshy part. You can see on this side here, there's already quite a lot of the flesh that's been eaten. And when I picked it up, everyone started kind of moving around. So I'm going to put it back in the water. And I think as soon as it gets back in the water, these snails will be a little bit more stoked and happy to carry on feeding. Quite rude, actually, to just interrupt them from a meal like that. But it's one of the most incredible things about exploring this rocky shore. There are so many things. And I know in the bush, it's incredible as well. You walk around, there's little insects, there's little bugs. And often when one thinks of a city, one doesn't imagine how much diversity of life, how many small little creatures and critters, interesting small creatures and critters are around. But you come down to the shore like this, and there's just this like overabundance of animals. And it's low tide, man. I love low tide. They're all exposed at the moment. If we just come down and look on these rocks over here, there's a different type of seaweed, different type of kelp that's growing here. Now, always watch the water when you're down here. Disclaimer. There's this little bubble type seaweed. I'm not sure what its name is. I'm not a seaweed and kelp expert. Really interesting. It's actually quite like squishy. Then there's another variety over here. See, it's much longer, much more frilly. And then a much more hardy type over here. And a green, very different colored seaweed over there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of seaweed in a patch about that big. In here are periwinkles, they're limpets, they're periwinkles or seal snails that are eating limpets. This is where it's all happening. And as you can look behind us now, we see the tide pushing in. If I'm not mistaken, low tide has passed. And the tide has begun pushing back in, and you can see in this little sheltered bay now, in the next 3 or 4 hours, most of this will be underwater again. These seaweeds, which are now exposed to the air, will be covered by water and will be under attack by little crabs, limpets, sea urchins, and all of the things that eat seaweeds and little algae. And then in 6 hours' time, it'll go back to low tide again and everything will be exposed again. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on the rocky shores this afternoon, what am I saying? It's been lovely having you. Me and Igor have thoroughly enjoyed ourselves this afternoon. We've had such a great time. And I think we've done pretty well with finding little bits and pieces. There's a whole variety of animals here. We've just scraped the surface, so we'll be back again tomorrow. For now, we're going to send you back to the bush, though. I hope that those lions are doing exciting things as it cools down into the afternoon and evening, and they get active and give you a bit of a show, we could say. Until tomorrow, though, I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time.
Well, I'm sure we will. Lots has been happening this afternoon, so I'm pretty sure it'll be a goodie. The pride is all just static. I'm surprised, actually, that they're not still trailing those buffalo. I would have thought, the buffalo were very close at one point to where we are now. When we first saw the buffalo, it was probably about 100 meters from where they are now. So I would have expected them to try and trail, but we might find that this pride is what's happening is that it's getting to the point where they want it to get darker before they action a hunt. So they're waiting for the darkness to start settling, and then they'll start to move towards where they are. And like I say, it's all perfectly set up now. It would have been ideal if they had a few more members of the pride, but this exact combination that you see now is what was able to bring down a buffalo a few weeks ago. Well, not even a few weeks ago. Yeah, a few weeks ago when I first got here. So it's very, very possible that they'll be able to do so again. I'm hoping that if they do hunt the buffalo, that they do it on our side. The buffalo, funny enough, were going to cross into Arathusa. They were heading straight there, and then all of a sudden just kind of right-angle turn and back into Djuma. And they were, last I saw them, they were mobile northeast into Djuma towards Impala Plains. So I'm sure they're going to go settle on Impala Plains. They normally like to drink before they settle, but maybe with the weather that we've had today, they're not that worried about finding water and more sort of concerned about finding some sort of clearing just to sit on.
Yeah, I think this guy is from Manamala, so he's driving here every day now. This is the main road. Some of the staff is use this main road. It's called the Manamala main road. There's nothing you're going to have to be patient with us.
All right, well, I think we're going to have to just be patient with these Telematis. I think they're going to have a bit of a nap first. The excitement of Darkmane joining was too much for them by the looks of things, and everybody's just flopping down except for Darkmane. He's watching the buffalo. I'm sure they've just heard them. So we'll sit with them and be patient. It's all the recipe for something cool to happen a little bit later. Well, we're still with our lions. They're all one by one passing out and sleeping. A nice cool spot to lie, albeit a busy one. But you can see not much care is given to the fact that they are blocking traffic on this particular road. Darkmane, I think, just picked up those buffalo now because he picked up his head and looked directly in where they were heading. So I'm sure they're just waiting for darkness to settle, and then they'll get up and go. It was nice to see him joining with the rest, though. Initially, it was quite funny when he first came around the corner. They saw him and they all ran away. I'm sure they thought maybe S8 is around, or potentially even the other southern, the other two evokers, Blondie and Mohawk, and so they started trotting. And then the young male, funny enough, was the one that went towards him and started doing a little contact call. And then everybody kind of realized, oh wait, it's Dad. And then all the sub-adults ran back towards him, and then you saw that little cuddle puddle that happened of lions. And then everybody started to flop down, and that's now going to sleep in the middle of the road. So I wonder how long it will be like this. I'm pretty sure they're just waiting to get dark, and then we'll start to see them moving. Celia, I don't know. What we find is a split of the pride. So what we might find is that there's going to be the lionesses with the Mbali male. And then, Darkmane stays with. It will all really depend on females coming, whether or not that attracts the attention of Mbali, S8, whichever one you want to call him, and whether or not he'll then find them and try and mate with those females. So that's where the kind of issue is going to become. The problem that's happening now is because of the pride sizes within the Telematis and Kuhumas, and Sevu Kambula pride, even Torchwoods, there's these splits are taking place because the prides are too big, one, and secondly, there's uncertainty in the males, and so females are mating with different males, and that's causing all of them to split. Now, the problem with the splits is that it's so theoretically, if the three lionesses that are mating with stay up north, and these guys don't want to be with him and they want to be with Darkmane, they've got to kind of squeeze into Djuma, but then the Nkuhumas are squeezing northward slightly because the Nsevu Kambulas are also splitting and they're pushing out in their own directions. So it's just, everything's a bit unsettled at the moment. So what can happen and what will happen is really quite a... I don't think anyone... will have a crystal ball to know exactly how it will play out. But the reality is that if he picks up on a female in heat, he's going to want to go towards that female. See this female? She's smelling those buffalo now. See her nose is in the air. I'm sure they're going to come this way. They're going to follow these buffalo. Could be good for them. I think they're going to have a busy night. But I've noticed with them that it's not the daylight time. They're normally late evening that they harass until the early morning. And they're all looking like they could do with a meal. None of them are exceptionally full, and they've been trailing this buffalo herd evidently since yesterday. There's no coincidence that the buff crossed and these guys are not far behind. So they're still trailing, they still know where to go and what they want. And so they'll be also pressurizing the herd on purpose to try and figure out exactly where the weaknesses are within that herd, and then they can try and execute that in the night. All right, sounds like Wendy is back up and running. Lauren has ditched the dam camp. She's back out, so let's send you across to her.
Hi, I'm Lauren. You've heard me all drive, however you have not seen me. So I must introduce my camel, and that is Dobby. Hi, Dobby. We are back out and about. Wendy is hopefully going to make it through the drive. No promises. She feels so different. I don't know why. Maybe I've just been spending too much time in the water. But she feels not in great shape. Come on, Wendeline, you're back with Lauren. We can do this. Now, I have no idea where anything is or what's happening on the reserve, so I thought, let's just drive. Let's just enjoy it, answer your questions, have some discussions, and pop into the Mulwati, see if the Wicks are home. That's my plan. Who knows what's going to happen along the way. I'm sure Tristan's already told you, but there are wild dogs at Sydney's Dam, but, you know, lo and behold, Sydney's Dam does not work for us. So I shall not go that way, I shall bumble south. For some reason, out of all the directions or all the compass points, north, south, east, west, I always go south. It's my favorite. I guess maybe it's because that's the way I used to go for the hyena den. Maybe that's why. I'm so used to taking this road that I just take it every single time. But it is nice to be out on drive. As much as a fantastic tool the dam cam is, I must say, after a few hours, it's nice to be out. Lorenzo, you get quite a few, to be honest. I'm not actually sure of the number. There are definitely some species that I have not seen, but you do get quite a few owl species, and I think I have not brought my bird book with me, which is rather disastrous, to be honest. But the most common ones you see here are the spotted eagle. Ah, hello, Fig. Is that you? Ah, trying to catch some sunshine. I think it could be Fig. Fleet-eared lizard, one of my favorites. And clearly there's not much sunshine, so lo and behold, we are just trying to warm up in any way that we can. You're fairly relaxed today. Where's your dwarf mongoose friends? So yes, back to the owls. You get the small ones, the African barred owlet and the pearl spotted owlet. Southern whiteface you also get, and the scops. They're the sort of sorry, Darby, I'm going to let go of the brake. I'm not quite used to being back and drive. And they're the small ones that you definitely do get here. They're fairly common in this area. Spotted eagle owl, as I already mentioned. The Verreaux's eagle owl is quite common in this area. And that's really all the species that I have seen. I really, really want to see the Pell's fishing owl. But sadly, the distribution doesn't cover this area, I'm afraid. It's listed as vulnerable and it's got quite a narrow distribution. So they're the main species that we do see here. You get the Cape eagle owl, which looks quite similar to the spotted, but naturally it's found mostly in the Cape. You look not too impressed with the weather. Neither was I this morning. But it's nice to see you. I had the most wonderful sighting, one of my favourite sightings with, I'm pretty sure it's this individual, but I'm speculating.
and dwarf mongoose. They have a really nice symbiotic relationship. And just like that, he gone. But they help each other. Dwarf mongoose naturally look out for the lizard. Alarm calling, protecting it. And the lizard eats up all the mongoose species. So it keeps the den nice and hygienic, one must say. Anyway, we are going to keep bumbling south and hopefully get lucky.
Free diving is the purest way to experience the great African sea forest. Silently gliding through the long kelp fronds allows you to reconnect with nature and explore this enchanted world. Sea Forest is a brand new daily experience coming soon on the WildEarth channel. You will explore an underwater forest live from Cape Town, while a team of naturalists explain what we are seeing.
Like trees in a forest, these kelp provide food and shelter for many, many species.
Magical encounters with shy marine life, crustaceans, sharks, seals, and so much more will all bring a window of calm into an otherwise chaotic world.
I think sometimes you need just to listen. So it's a kind of taking out all that other spirit and bring back wilderness and healthy. Bushwalk and trek and sign. I'm sure I'm good at that. I spend most of my time on the ground since I was a young boy, so I think I'm good with that. Actually, I'm not much nervous of any category. Just take it as it is. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on what the judges are looking at. So chances are 50-50 on my side. I'm not... Obviously, when you go for a competition, you say you win.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Well, we're still with the Pride, and they kind of go from sleeping to up, just depending on cars that are trying to bypass. So it's a bit of a shocker at the moment, because we're trying to get cars through the sighting that are people that are trying to get to lodges and things like that are not even on game drive. So it's just normal cars as well, which is creating its own little situation. So yeah, we are hoping that eventually we can clear the traffic. We've got 2 cars through already, so it's now just to try to get the rest, because they're lying right in the middle of the road. You know, we can't some cars just can't go off-road and around them if they're in normal little sedan vehicles or something like that. So trying to, like I say, get everybody through as much as we can, and that's why the Pride keeps going up and down and waking up and kind of trying to see what's going on. But I'm pretty sure they're going to be fairly static for a while. It doesn't look like they're in a hurry to go anywhere. So even though they've had the buff close by, it seems like they know that they can catch up later and just going to enjoy a nice rest on a cool afternoon. Gary, no. So Purple Eye isn't here at the moment. Purple-eyed lioness. Purple Eye is the one from the Nkumas. That's all very complicated because we have two prides. No, but she's not here. She was seen not yesterday, day before, to the north of us, inside Buffalo's Hook. Kind of still same situation. She hasn't quite recovered yet, but at the same time, she also isn't doing horrendously badly. So yeah, I think hopefully she can connect with the pride at some point. I think she just struggles to keep up with them. They move too quickly for her, and so it's tough for her to be able to keep up with the whole pride and where they're going. It's quite funny watching people's reactions as they try to drive through here themselves. So these telematis make me laugh. For some reason they have this fascination with vehicles as they drive past, sub-adults, particularly the locals. They like to watch the car and then try and follow it as they go. Interesting though, I only see the one young male here. There's 2 young males missing. Where, I don't know, but the guys told me that this morning one young male crossed the road here and went into Djuma. So I don't know if the other one is inside here already and is close by and will eventually come back and join, or if the other 2 are together somewhere else. I'm not sure, but there's definitely only the one here. So there should be 3 in total in the Talamati Pride. So yeah, I don't know where the other 2 will be. There's been this conundrum of the 3 Talamatis for a number of months now. We saw all 3 together. I can't even remember when it was, but we saw all 3 together at one point. And then it went down to 2 together, and now it's the one. There was 2 with this group the other day, so I don't know where the second one is. But you can see how much they've still got to grow when you look at Dark Mane and just his mane itself. And you realize how much hair he's got around his face compared to this little one on the right here. While he's a big-bodied individual, he's still got a lot of fur to grow around that head until he's even remotely in the same league as Darkmane. Interested to see if they'll roar tonight. I don't think they will. I think they're going to be fairly quiet, especially if they want to trail buffalo. I'm actually just commenting on how amazing he looks and that he's got a beautiful mane. And he does have a beautiful mane. Let's see if he's going to come walking past everybody. He was walking alright earlier when we saw him coming down the road. He looked pretty good, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's not too bad, is it? There's a little limp there, but it's not crazy. We're going to switch like I say, with the pride probably for the remainder of the drive. In the meantime, we'll send you across to the JP on walk.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We just found a group of zebras that came down to come and drink. Just prior to that, there was also a spotted hyena that was wallowing in the mud over there. I didn't like him, so I just chased him off. Quite interesting because most of the group actually followed the hyena for a short distance before they actually returned to come and have a drink. I just wanted to make 100% sure where he was going and what he was up to. We quite often find that animals will follow predators or keep our eye on predators and keep close by enough so that they can keep the eye on them to make sure that there's no element of surprise in an attack that's launched on them. Other zebras seem to be a little bit more relaxed now, and all of them is now drinking. We're just going to sit down and watch them for a little bit longer. That's one of the things that I did want to point out, is that it's right at the end of the winter month. There's not a lot of grasses left, but when we look at zebra, we can actually see how healthy they are and in which good condition they are still, although there's a lack of food out here at the moment. And the simple way of assessing their health is actually just looking at the manes. And if we do have a look at those manes, you'll notice that they're in an upright position. Once their fat reserves is depleted, then the mane will start flopping, which will indicate that the zebra is not in a healthy condition at all. I'm also quite happy to see so many zebras at the dam because I haven't seen a lot of zebras together actually for quite a while. And the one area where we did try and always go and look at them in the plains area, when we do try and approach them, they normally see us well before that we can even get close to them because they've got phenomenally good eyesight. And then they start snorting and then they gallop off as they don't like us on foot. Strange thing is I've actually had far greater success with walking lions or approaching lions on foot than I've actually had of zebras. Lions actually tend to seem less fussed about us. I am busy staring there off in the distance. It's most likely the hyena that's still lurking around and hoping to come back, to come and have a little bit of a wallow and to cool himself down. It doesn't seem to be so hot, but however, if you're out here on foot this afternoon, the humidity is quite high. And I sweated out quite a few liters myself, so I can believe it that hyena is pretty hot at the moment and would love to return to come and have a little wallowing session. Let's sit and watch a little bit longer, and hopefully we'll see him returning for his spa treatment. There's also some vervet monkeys that decided it's time to come and have a drink. There's one right in the front of that log, making his approach to the water. And there's a whole troop that suddenly appeared behind him. The monkeys doesn't seem to be much fussed about the presence of a hyena that's close by either. Otherwise, there would have been alarm calling. Well, we're going to link you into the Eco Training promo. If you would like to make use of a discount on a guiding course, there's your opportunity to come and join us on a guiding course and to learn more about animal behavior, as well as the different species of animals which we have out here.
Operating for 27 years, Eco Training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. WildEarth has been working closely with Eco Training to promote the safari guide industry and create awareness for its importance. This is why, for 1 month only, we are offering all WildEarth viewers an opportunity to receive a discount on an Eco Training safari guide course. Contact Eco Training today to find out more, and remember to quote Eco Wild Live to receive your discount.
Well, not much has changed at all. Still very much quiet on the lion front. They're still taking it very easy, everybody. Until the adult females move, I don't think we're going to see too much movement from them. Sub-adults will wait for them, and dark mane equally will wait until the lionesses move. Hang on a second, I actually wanted to see something. I think it's her, but it might be. Maybe Purple Eye is here, or the one with the purple eye is here, I'm not sure. I'm trying to find my binos through all of this. No, it's not. It's just the old lioness. No, she's definitely not here. It's one that had a weird looking eye in this light. I thought maybe I'd missed her. No, yes, if they're in estrus, you'll definitely mate with them. The sub-adult females won't be ready yet, but the adult females, probably within the next 6 months or so, will come into estrus. We know 3 of them are already starting to come into estrus, and that's why Mbali male is mating with them. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not this group, he ends up mating with them. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a fascinating few months to see how everything pans out and plays out. I suspect that he'll end up mating at least one. Whether or not he continues to mate with them with the noise of it attracting potentially the Mbali male, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be dependent on where they end up fitting and where they go, who walks where. Those will all be things that will determine how the pride dynamic plays out and whether or not Darkmane actually gets a chance to mate again with these females. He might have to move and might stay. It's like I say, I don't think anyone can predict what's going to happen going forward, but the reality is that if lionesses come into estrus, he will mate with them. He still considers himself dominant, he still vocalizes scent marks, and so as long as he's doing all of that stuff, then you're going to find that he'll be able to mate, or try at least to mate with the females. So you see one of the lionesses is up now, so let's see what she does. If she's the one that goes, then I think it might drag the rest with. See how skinny they are though. They could really do with a good meal. Just gonna settle right here. I don't think she wants to go any further. Sure. It's one of the old girls. See that dark nose and tatty ears. But you notice how the rest of the pride kind of perked up when she walked past. As soon as they see her lying down again, everybody starts to go back to sleep. It's interesting, it's just the one adult. The rest all sub-adults besides Darkmane here, by the looks of it. Maybe my binos, let me check. Looks like they're starting to get the yawns and things like that. Obviously there's a change in vehicles and people moving, and it always triggers a bit more alertness from the lions. But definitely some of them starting to yawn and kind of groom and those kinds of things. Alright, well, while we watch the pride, Lauren is going to go visit the wigs. I'll send you across to her.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a very grumpy-looking Mr. Wick. Hello, Papa. You do not appear to be as happy to see me as I am to see you, but that's okay. We can work with that. Garden Mama over here. Now, Darby's having a little bit of a... Well, he's having difficulty spotting the spotted eagle owl. I think he's lost his bush eyes. He's only got tiger shark eyes now.
It's tricky. It's tricky.
But we are going to show you Missy's wig.
Can you see her?
I can. Oh, now he's throwing me under the bus. Okay. 12 o'clock. I'll guide you. There we go, there we go. Keep going. You got her? You got her? Look at that. Well done, Darby. Oh, she is definitely incubating. I know this position, I know this face, I know this nest so well. And yes, I guess we all knew that, but she's definitely got eggs under there. Or a egg or eggs, I'm not sure. Hello, you beautiful, beautiful creature. Now, this exact position is where she nested with Sebwig and also with Olivia. It's the exact same nest to the exact GPS point. She's not moved in any way, shape, or form. And of course, they're territorial. So this is their little area, and they're not always easy to find, but naturally, it's so thin. The bush is so thin, you can kind of spot them. Oh, I'm going to spend many hours here, everyone. Many of you are saying, you hope this one survives. Of course, me too. But I mean, they can lay up to 6 eggs. But on average, it's between 2 to 3. And of course, the survival rate is never 100%. So with Olivia, I think it was Steve, actually. Could be wrong. He found eggs that had actually rolled down the embankment. So it wasn't just Olivia, but of course they didn't make it. So it's normally 2 to 3, so we may find more than one chick. And you need to get thinking of your names, everyone. I mean, we've had Sebwick and then Olivia, so we really need to up the game. Oh, this is so lovely, and it's in a very, very tricky signal spot, but we can make it work, especially because it's winter. If it's summer, we're not going to get signal here, but because it's winter and the bush is so thin, we can make it work. And she sits there all day. My day is made. I'm definitely going to sit here a little bit longer. Sitting here with Mama Spotted Eagle Owl, and I'm massively anthropomorphizing, but compared to Papa, she has this very happy looking face. She looks so relaxed. Her sort of mouth lines turn upwards, which naturally make you think of a smile, but I just always feel she's rather proud when it comes to this time of year. But being in the Mulwati, you can hear the sounds of all the other birds around, so let's just enjoy that. I'm going to sit here for a moment or two and listen to the sounds of the bush. It's so perfect, sitting here in the Mulwati, watching one of my favorite birds.
Still with the pride, and they're still sleeping. Not really much has changed. Didn't really expect a lot to change. I think when it gets dark, we're going to see them waking up a little bit. They might not even, in this drive, they might just stay sleeping the entire drive. And we don't see them moving, but it's a risk worth taking and worth hedging our bets in case it's the right time of day. We know there's potential prey animal close by. So why not just try and see what we can get out of it and see whether or not something can happen for us. I'm sure those buffalo will eventually go across onto Arathusa's side. So I was hoping they were going to go earlier because it would have driven them into Djuma more. But as soon as they cross over, then obviously the pride will follow back into the Arathusa if that's the case. So the longer they sit, the less likely it is that they'll end up on our side. Now you might see a couple of flashes as well. Let's just guess, trying to get some photos. It is getting very dark now. So the idea is to try and just get for them to get a couple of photos before it gets completely dark. Jessica, yes, and they do. Sometimes they do rebel against a male. If they feel like that male is not welcome and they've got cubs with another male or something like that, they'll push them away. So yeah, it does happen from time to time, but it's not common. Normally the males have the power and the strength to bully them into submission. And also, if the male has gotten to the point where it's accessing the pride, normally he's pushed out the dominant individuals and therefore needs to be accepted at some point, because he's going to be the individual that will be breeding with them. So it's only a matter of time until that hostility eventually changes. Unless it's like young male or young males and the pride pushes them off and they become, they carry on in their nomadic way and find somewhere else. But if it's a big male and it arrives, then it means he's pushed that bigger male out already. So, there's an acceptance that's need to take place. It often takes a bit of time. And unfortunately, a couple cubs generally die in that process for the females to then start to warm up to them. In this particular instance, the prides here didn't have that issue, because when the evokers arrived, the Birminghams had kind of left and the sub-adults were all big already. So they weren't in danger. They were all able to pretty much mate. The young males had to be pushed out, but the females didn't have any small cubs. If they're small cubs, then they try and defend them as much as they can and be quite aggressive to those males that are incoming. It's actually amazing. We haven't had any major lion kind of fight or altercation in the last little while here. There's been the odd little dust up around a carcass, but there's been nothing crazy. I mean, even the other day with these guys on that buffalo kill, it wasn't like the Mbali male got into a physical altercation with any of them. They all ran off and he kind of ran in and chased them a little bit and roared, but there was no physicality to it. Eventually, at some point, there's going to have to be physicality, or somebody's going to have to decide to run. So either Darkmane's going to have to be like, well, that's it, I'm out, and leave, or there's going to have to be some physical confrontation. Because I don't think the Mbali male is going to stop where he is. I think he's going to continue to press. The more he feels like he can access more females, the nature of male lions is to try and take as big an area as possible and mate as many times as they can. And so he's going to try his very best then to push Darkmane as much as possible. So there's going to have to be a clash or a surrender of territory either way. Doesn't matter who, but one of them's going to have to go through that process. Nice. Shelley's Franklin calling in the background. It's a nice call, that. We hear it every now and then. Not a common Franklin out here. I mean, there are lots of them, but we just don't see them as much as we see like the Natal spur files or Swainson spur files, or crested Franklins. Very vocal. Like I was saying, I also don't think these guys will roar. I think if Darkman had started coming now, I think we would have heard him roaring. If he had walked down the road and seen them, he would have bellowed at this time. But I think the pride, now that they're connected, I'd be very surprised if he roars and triggers the rest to roar. This pride also, in many ways, is trying to fly under the radar themselves, because they don't really want to attract the attention of the Mbali male, or probably even Blondie or Mohawk. They're happy when they kind of on their own or with Darkmane, and so if everyone kind of keeps quiet, then they're normally okay with that. But they are out for the count, all of them. Alrighty, well, we'll continue to sit with them. Hopefully, like I said, at some point they decide to get up.
Operating for 27 years, Eco Training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. WildEarth has been working closely with Eco Training to promote the safari guide industry and create awareness for its importance. This is why, for 1 month only, we are offering all WildEarth viewers an opportunity to receive a discount on an Eco Training safari guide course. Contact Eco Training today to find out more, and remember to quote Eco Wild Live to receive your discount.
And I turned to Shaun and I saw that she had this panicked look on her face. Either she was afraid that something had happened, or she was afraid that she was going to miss out on something. But instead of her missing out on those lions, we drove up next to them and I switched off the car so that she could hear what was going on. Now, these lions had killed a kudu, and she could hear these two cubs, both 8 months old at the time, busy pushing and shoving each other out the way to get to the best parts of the meat. And the mom was lying just to the side in the shade. Now, I'd known that before losing her sight, Shaun probably knew what a lion looked like. But I really wanted her to know what this lion looked like. So for the first time in my guiding career, I started to describe to someone what a lion looked like. And I found that, I started to notice things in that lion that I'd never seen before.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
It's a huge privilege to be in these incredible places with these amazing animals. I love filming lions. When they do get up and do something, it's always spectacular. When they are playing, are incredibly fun to watch, especially subalterns and cubs. I love being in the bush and working in these incredible places with these amazing animals. We want to bring it to you so that you can almost feel like you're right there and be able to experience it and enjoy it the way we are.
I haven't moved. This is too precious. I'm going to stay here a little bit. Oh. Lucy's wig! Oh my goodness, the timing couldn't have been more perfect. You're letting us see your future babies. Okay, we can't go any closer because we will lose signal. Oh. Toilet time, delightful. Yes, we saw you. Davi, let's just quickly check how many eggs are there before we lose light. Naturally, it's a dull grey day. Oh, would you look at that? I mean, I can see two. Potentially there's another one, but I can't drive closer right now while we're live. But maybe once we go off air, I'll just drive past. She's very habituated to the vehicles driving past. I mean, she's had 2 years of us. How exciting. That's Papa just moved. Did you see him? Papa Wig. Okay, well, at least we've got some answers now. You know, Sebwig was one of my favourite times at WildEarth. It was just such a great memory. I remember Tristan was an FC when I first discovered the chick, and we were all trying to identify what this chick could be, and we're all excited. And then James Hendry, some of you know him, some of you don't. He was, it's a bird. But oh, he fell in love with that bird, I'll tell you. All he could talk about was Sebwig. And Sebwig just brought us so much joy. Yes. Your son. Well, we don't actually know if it was a male or a female. I shouldn't have said that. Oh, that is so cool. Art Piece. What a fabulous name. Art Piece. You're saying she's such a great mum. Zen mum. She actually is. She is a very habituated owl also. Papa's not. He'll always fly away. He's not keen on the vehicle. He's not relaxed. But she is really, really relaxed. And I think it's all that time that we spent with her, with Sebwig. All of us, the team at the time, we just spent hours and hours with Sebwig. We never drove too fast. We never drove too close. We weren't loud. We didn't, you know, we're all very cautious on how we approached her. And naturally, she's just very relaxed now. She's let us spend time with both her babies. I don't know when she laid eggs, I'm afraid, but I mean, the incubation period is roughly 30 days, so a month, give or take. This is going to be interesting. I think I'm going to have to keep checking every day, at least once a day. She's a very zen mom, I agree. She's very relaxed. And sadly, survival rate is low. Olivia, we don't quite know what happened. I just remember I visited one day and she'd moved spots from the nest and I was horrified. I was horrified at where she was sitting. And after that, we never saw her again. So good to see them again. Lara Moore, I have only seen exactly what you have seen, but I shall consult my bird app. The eggs of a spotted eagle owl are said to be 25 millimeters in length, and I have no idea the size of a chicken egg, I'm afraid. But they are 25 millimeters. They look quite large from what we've seen. But that quick glimpse is the only egg I've actually seen. I never saw the eggs with Sebwig or Olivia. It's the first time I've seen them. They do look quite large, shiny, bright white. I just wonder when she laid the first one, it would be so good. We should set up a owl cam that just watches the Wig family all day long. Okay, we are losing light, so we're going to bumble on, continue exploring, but I believe Tristan is so sitting with his favourite lions.
Oh, so the lions, slowly but surely, they look like they're getting up now and wanting to go. So I think the whole pride's going to start going. We might just quickly turn and try and get ahead of them so that we can have the pride walking towards us. Try and just get around here quickly. Easier said than done though, because it's quite thick in here. A lot thicker than I first anticipated. There's a nice little clear patch where I was parked. So I was like, oh, that'll be easy, I'll just get around them quickly. And that is not quite what has ended up happening. By the time I get through, they'll be past us at this stage. There's one already way ahead of us, yeah. It's okay, as long as we can get onto the fire break, then we can just kind of go past them. But they're heading now towards where I last saw the buffalo. It's still a while that they've got to go. They've got to get up and around. Are you going to just lie down right there? Okay. Go slowly past them, because otherwise they get a little bit weird. Sometimes the sub-adults, they like to follow the cars. Hello, girl. So this is my terrain, just a turn. Once we turn, then we're going to have it a lot easier in being able to see these guys coming down towards us. You're going to sit there. No, toilet time. Alright, let's just park here for now. As the pride comes, we'll just reverse with them. I think a few of them want to go to the toilet. Did she just lie down in her own urine? Wow. Lions sometimes do some weird things. But you see how they respond to this one female? When she moves, then they all kind of come. This is also very typical lion behavior, where they'll walk 10 meters, lie down, 10 meters, lie down, 10 meters, lie down. They don't always just get up and cover big distance. Sometimes it takes a bit of time for them to be able to go where they want to go and do what they want to do. See, they're just kind of ambling around now. Jade, just one, as far as I can see. Maybe there's a second one. I'm just looking now with the binos. No, young. On the fence. Might be. Just the one adult lioness, the one on the far left. The rest all sub-adults. So interesting. I really do enjoy watching Darkmane and his way with these sub-adult males. He seems to just really enjoy the sub-adult males. He was walking up the road and the sub-adult male was at the back, and he literally just stopped, went back, and now is waiting for the sub-adult male to join him. It's an interesting kind of thing that he has this way about him. The pride should come walking right past us. There's enough space for them on the side here. I don't have to worry about moving. Just let them amble past. I was going to reverse with them, but they're so spread out that I'd rather just let them come past slowly. Pretty crazy, eh? That lions can walk past at this proximity. It's going to be very, very cool just to watch them all. This is one of the naughty lionesses, this particular individual that's coming past us now. She often is the one that chases things and tries to come up towards the calves. What's wrong, Paul? She's sniffing the tire. Yeah, I told you she's naughty. She always does it. She's the naughtiest of the group. It's the one with the very light-coloured eyes. She's going now. I think these guys are going to start hunting buffalo now. Looks like they're a lot more serious. Little stumpy tail right at the back. Alrighty, so while the pride is filing past us the way that they are, just want to remind all of you that tomorrow morning we will be out half an hour earlier. So drive starts half an hour earlier tomorrow. We will not be starting at 6 Central African time. We'll be starting at 5:30 until 8:30 in the morning. And in the afternoons, we're going to be moving an hour later, which I know a lot of you will be quite happy about, especially those of you that are in the US. So we'll be starting at 3:30 in the afternoon and finishing at 7:30 Central African time. So just please make note of that. It's something that you don't want to miss out on, then just adjust your clocks. Oh boy. There's the two limpy individuals on the back. Sort of dark mane and little stumpy tail. And Paul, are you wearing lion cologne today? Eh? And Paul's wearing lion cologne today because they're all stopping and sniffing right where he is. I'm just going to roll forward to let this car come past so that they can go follow them. We'll turn just up ahead here and then we can follow them too. I typically don't like to turn on the fire brake itself because this fire brake is sneaky. A lot of people don't know, but there's a lot of zebra wood, little ones, that are just on the edge here, and if you're not careful, you drive over them and you end up like there's one right there. You end up with a complete set of punctured tires. Zebra wood is one of the hardest woods we have out here, and they absolutely punish tires, so we try and a lot of the time avoid those as much as possible, and so we'll try and see if we can kind of not drive over any in the dimness that is this evening. Trying to think how much further we are until the buffalo. Still a while, I think. We've still got to go up towards Impala Plains, but the buffalo walked through this entire area and then they were going towards Impala Plains. You can see some of the pride starting to go in now, so I wonder if they're not thinking about trailing the herd and get onto the actual scent of the herd itself and trail. One without the tail is missing the tip of the tail. It's just watching. I don't know if maybe she can hear them. I'm sure she'll join the rest of the pride now. See, dark mane, eh? Interesting. He always looks back and just makes sure the whole pride is coming. He very seldom carry on if there's still one at the back. Like, he stopped now and looked over his shoulder as to where this one was, and almost kind of as if to say, come on, you need to come with us. All right, like I say, we'll keep following them for the remainder of this afternoon. It's not much longer now. We'll see if they cut back into Djuma and start actually hunting those buffalo.
We are just bumbling into the dark. I think it actually is time to get my spotlight out. Will it work? Will it not? It does not. That's fabulous. So we'll try that one again later. This car and all its equipment is rather temperamental. But I will need the spotlight soon. It's getting very, very dark. There was no dramatic skies tonight, of course. There was no sunset. There was no sun. I think rain is expected for the next few days, and then hopefully glorious sunshine again. I mean, I just have returned from the tropics. I shouldn't be too greedy with the sunshine. But all in all, I love it. It's going to be a lot easier to find nocturnal animals as well, because it's so open, it's so barren, that you'll see them far more sort of easily than you would if it was summer. I don't think I've really had an excellent nocturnal animal, and I'm talking not your cats, I'm talking your mongoose, your white-tailed mongoose, honey badger, porcupines, genets, civet. I've not really had a sighting like that in winter, summer, sorry. Dobby's light's working, that's great. Got one light. Technology. But I am going to pull over now and try to figure out how to fix my spotlight.
Well, we're still following the pride, slowly rumbling up the road, making their way towards Impala Plains. I'm pretty sure this is where I last saw the last member of the buffalo when I first joined the pride, so I mean that's already 45 minutes ago, an hour ago. They were just here, so, and they were slowly pushing up, but knowing the buffalo herd, they should at this stage of the day be starting to just settle a little bit, so sitting down. I wouldn't be surprised they're just sitting on Impala Plains itself and are going to rest up there for a little while. It's very, very possible. See, Dark Mane has made his way to the forefront, which is interesting. Is right at the top. Just going very slowly past some of the members of the pride. There's one of the other young males here next to me now. Hello, boy. Lioness going to the toilet in front of us. And the old lioness still leading the charge in front. Like I say, as long as she's walking, the rest are going to walk too. They're all going to be in a situation where they follow her lead. But they'll definitely be able to smell or hear those buffalo from now. We're now close enough that they should be able to hear them. The buffalo, or where Impala Plains is just as we crest now. To the right is going to be Impala Plains. So not this first pole, the second pole, just after that is where we turn in. So I'm pretty sure we're going to end up going into Djuma. Let's try and see if we can keep up with them for the remainder of the drive. Shannon, me, no. Impor, yes. Impor is still getting very used to this, but after 12 years of these kind of walk-bys and things, it's become, not second nature, but it is just something you got to get used to, It's not something that you ever fully kind of, I don't know, you never lose the appreciation for it, but it just becomes something that you know and trust in. So you don't have that fear anymore. You just have that, okay, well, it's going to come past, and I know that generally this is what will happen. And you'll be surprised every time those lions come past like that, and when they come right up close to the car, I'll always have my hand on their key. And that way, if they even start putting their heads like over the door or try and smell, just start the car, and it immediately pushes them back away from you. So it's not anything to worry about when they come past like this. The most kind of nervy one I've had is I had once one of the Salalas put its head into where my feet were. We didn't have doors on the car, and this young male put his head into the car and started sniffing my feet, which was a bit awkward, and I didn't notice because I was too busy actually watching the other Pride members, and he had come from the right behind a bush, and so kind of watched him sort of do that, and then as soon as I stomped my foot, he left. I also had a sighting once where the tracker was it's Herbie next to us, everybody, those of you that know Herbie. The tracker was sitting on the front, and the Tswalu sub-adult lioness, which are now the Mangena adults, came up and was trying to pull the tracker's shoe. They obviously liked the taste of the leather, and they were constantly like tugging at the leather on the shoe, which was pretty interesting. Not ideal. But they actually became a problem at one point, those Mangena sub-adults, which were then the Tswalu sub-adults. They learnt that blankets and hot water bottles come from cars, and it actually got to the point where one tried to jump into one of the seats, and then from then on we had to kind of make sure that everybody understood that if they came close, that you started and moved off. You didn't let them get close, and it took about a week of them trying to like come closer and moving, and then they eventually realized that that was not okay, and they stopped, and that was the end of that. So we didn't have any more problems after that. They literally just completely stopped their behavior of trying to see. That lioness has seen something. I don't know what it is, but she's spotted something, and you see how the rest of the pride has all gone stationary, and they're all watching her and getting a visual cue as to what they need to do. It won't be the buffalo herd. The buffalo herd went from here, they went more east, northeast. So this could be kudu, it could be impala, it could be waterbuck, it could be any of those things. Even maybe a lone buffalo that's just trailing the herd. It could be one of those, but the buffalo definitely went into Djuma. They didn't go into Arathusa. I asked the guys, and they said they were coming towards here, and then they turned, went back in onto our side. So my guess would be maybe a kudu of some sort. But you see how all of them take their cue from that lead lioness. They're all now starting to sit. Even Darkmane stopped in his tracks. Pretty sure he's keen for a meal with the pride. But you can get a nice indication now of Darkmane when he's sitting, of how much bigger he is than the lioness. You see him side by side there. Gives you a really good indicator of the head size difference between them. Comes the young male. He's going to walk past. Looks like they're going to go into Arathusa to stalk whatever this is, so I don't think we're going to get a buffalo hunt. Thought it would be, but I don't think we're going to see it from a buffalo perspective, and if they go into Arathusa, obviously I can't follow them. So it would be nice if it was something close to the road that they could potentially chase, but I don't think that that's going to be the case. I suspect that they're just watching, and it's all going to roll out a little bit longer. It's not going to just end in a chase in the next 10 minutes. I don't think, but stranger things have happened, and so I might be wrong, and I'd be happy to be proven on this occasion. They don't look like they're in serious stalk mode, though. They're still kind of lying and listening. Maybe they've heard something here and they're actually not quite sure what it is yet. They're just watching whatever it is that's in that area. Now, I apologize if you can hear almost sounds like a beating drum or music in the background. Believe it or not, it comes from the community. There's I don't know who it is, but there's somebody in the community that's close by here that has a speaker that is abnormally loud, and we can hear it on a Friday and Saturday night. We pick it up quite regularly. So if you hear it in the background, I do apologize. It's weird. This lead lioness has turned around and she's walking straight back now, the way we've just come. She's like, nope, I'm not going that way. Maybe she wants to peel around and try and get into the bush and then push whatever it is back towards these guys that are lying in the road. That's very, very possible. Sometimes see that from lions is that there'll be one that will go all the way around and then it will start to chase back into the line of others, which is what it looks like. I see her going down the road. It looks like she's going to cut into the block on the left and then come around the back of whatever it is and then push them in this direction. You'll also see a spotlight every now and then. That's just so that the guests can also get an idea. Unfortunately, they don't have infrared like we do to be able to see, and it's dark now. So it's going to be vitally important that they see something. They need a bit of light. But you'll see that they'll try and not shine too much. It's just going to be every now and then just a little kind of over the top. So just see that the guys will try and shine into the block just to see if they can see whatever it is that they're hunting, so we know what the distances are at, and figure out, how close they are, if we can move, if we can't move. All right, well, just sit here patiently and see what plays out.
The WildEarth channel now runs for 24 hours a day and is filled with exciting wildlife experiences for the whole family. In addition to our twice daily live safaris from Africa, we launched Sea Forest. Free divers explore the great African kelp forest under the water in Cape Town, while naturalists on the surface explain what we are seeing in real time. Our Escape to Nature series features exceptional wildlife footage throughout the day, and here you can immerse yourself in the sights and sounds of nature. And finally, we are launching a brand new penguin experience later this month, where you can follow the lives of a group of African penguins daily and in real time. If you want to join in on these experiences, then head over to wildearth.tv/channel to see where you can watch. Escape to nature with WildEarth.
We're here at the Advanced Rifle Handling Challenge, which is actually lots of challenges in one to gauge the contestants' skills at different distances and different speeds. This is probably the challenge that the contestants are the most nervous about. So let's get them locked and loaded. The competitors are now doing the Hades halt, where they have to run back and forth to a target, turn, take aim, and shoot. And this simulates a chase in a real environment and gets the heart pumping and the blood pressure up. James gave us a demonstration, and the skill involved in this exercise is remarkable.
Goodness, look at its wobbly legs. Oh, I don't believe it. I can't believe we've actually seen it. Oh my goodness. Oh, careful, careful, careful. Oh no. Oh, it's okay, little one.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
Well, nothing really has changed. The lions all just lying up, and the lead lioness, I've lost sight of her completely. She went all the way around. I can just make her out on the road, but as soon as she cut off the road, it's impossible. I can't see her in this light at all. You know, they're fairly dark on the light-coloured surface of the road, but as soon as they go into the tawny stuff of the grass, it's near impossible. You can't see them. That's why animals must struggle at night with these guys. It's tough existence that these antelope lead in dark nights like this, because also it's going to be very dark this evening. There is no available moonlight, and the cloud cover is quite dense and quite thick, so it's going to be a tough night for the antelope, that's for sure. Rory, not always just one, but there's normally the older lionesses are the ones that everybody watches for, and when they start to go, then they realize they need to start paying attention. In this case, it's just that there's only one old lioness in amongst all the sub-adults, so they're taking their cues from her because she has the experience, and you can see now they're starting to stalk properly, some of them. So what's happened is I'm sure that other one has gone all the way around and it's going to chase whatever it is towards where these guys are. I'm hoping that whatever it is at least sizable for them if they do get it right. There's a lot of mouths to feed here, and that lioness, the older one, she looks like she could really do with a proper meal. So as much as it would be nice for them to even catch something like impala, I think, you know, they would prefer or need something like a waterbuck or a big kudu or even buffalo for that matter. But yeah, I don't know if we're going to have enough time, I'm afraid, for this to play out. These lion stalks, like I say, can take a while. You know, the other lioness has got to get all the way around. She's got to flush them. She's got to kind of get them going to where these guys are. They've got to lie and wait. It just takes time. It's not an instant thing. But you see how they've all positioned themselves. So they're all on the edge of the road, all facing into the blocks, so that if something comes, they can just lie there and wait. And as something comes, and if it jumps, they just grab it and run into it. Even these well-laid traps like this don't always work, though. As we know, lion prides and even leopards and cheetah, they have low success rates at times. It's not easy catching a very mobile, very agile animal. And those that aren't very mobile and very agile are very strong, so don't really win. And that's important because if the cats would kind of hunt every day and come right with what they were doing, the population of antelope would just be decimated very, very quickly. So you need to have a balance where they get away some of the time and then other times they don't. But none of them are in like active down, head down, so whatever it is not close. When they have something that's really close to them, you'll find a whole lot of them will be down as low as they can be and trying to then wait for whatever it is to be pushed towards them. I'm also intrigued as to know what could be here. Maybe it's wildebeest or zebra as well, because actually there's a clearing not far from here. Could be either one of those two as well. And we know the Talamatis love of wildebeest. Their favorite things to eat. Amazing how quiet it is though. Also, doesn't it amaze you that they're walking and there's the sound of their feet moving and they're still picking up a subtle little movement to their left? I think it's fascinating how in tune they are with their environment. I'd love to have their hearing and their sense of smell. I think it would be just such a cool thing to know, like, cognitively how they perceive it and how it actually is. It's amazing how directional it is and how easily they're able to pick these things up. It must be very cool to have that kind of sense. There's a couple of them just lying in the bush there. I can't see what they're stalking there. Shine coming through. None of the guys around us can spot anything, so I'm not really sure what it is that is lurking. And unfortunately, we've pretty much run out of time now. It's not going to be able to see this out with all of you, I don't think. Only less than a minute to go till the end of the show. Pretty sure we're not going to see what happens here. There goes Darkmane. He's going into the block now as well. Amazing how they disappear in that grass. Anyway, it's that time, guys, where we're going to say goodnight to all of you. Sorry that that we couldn't conclude this. Hopefully in the future at some point we'll be able to stay with them. But I hope that you had a wonderful afternoon, and from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. See you tomorrow morning, bright and early on our Sunrise Safari. Remember, half an hour earlier.